Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 280th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I am your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me this evening on the call so far we have Donny Baseball and Andy Patterson. A welcome to these two stalwarts of the Asylum. Let's get stuck straight into the boxing action from over the weekend. We're going to start off. The only real action of any interest, as far as I was concerned, was Josh Taylor in against Victor Postol. We didn't really know how this one was going to go. Was the younger, fresher Taylor going to have too much for Postol, who, as Andy had explained in his last fight, looked pretty bad? Got away with one, but he had plenty left in the tank, Mr. Postol. Andy, you were at ringside. He put up a good display, used his height and reach advantages, used his jab, and gave Josh plenty to think about. I didn't actually score the fight. I know that somebody on Twitter, just as we were coming on, Omar TCL said, please, can you all disclose your scorecards for the fight? Shocking scorecards. I had it 114, 113 for Taylor, says Omar. We need to highlight this judging once again. Furious. What do you think about the judging, Andy?
Yep, scorecards were very wide. I think either a point or two to Taylor is maybe three at a match push for Taylor. I know a lot of people had Postol leading. It's a problem again, isn't it? I remember Tommy mentioned again there last night, it's another poor scorecard and a kind of big fight in Scotland. Especially in a kind of competitive fight as such, anyway, especially with like Burns Beltran, for example. But at the end of the day, I thought Taylor just did enough to nick it. I think the scorecards take away the fact is it was a really good fight. And I actually, I've got to kind of hold my hands up and say I got it wrong. I was just based it purely off Postol's last fight, and it didn't look good. And I really did think Josh Taylor was going to step in there and take him out, and he almost got him out actually in the 10th round with that left hand. He had a lot of problems actually last night as well, as Postol was. I kind of felt in the past he would kind of hold on to his right hand. He wouldn't really, let it go. Last night he let it go to the body, head and body, I should say. Really gave Taylor problems. He was having problems with the jab. He even said to Shane McGuigan in between rounds he was having problems with it. So hence this reason why he was switching stance, and defence was a bit leaky at times, and you could see him he was trying to kind of bob and weave himself into distance. He was really have a problem with the reach, and he couldn't really get to the body as well because of the length of his arms, Postol. But got to say Postol as well, I'd actually kind of written him off and maybe overlooked him off that performance. That he's clearly got a lot left in the tank. Maybe the fact that he's been inactive has maybe kind of prolonged him a little bit. Move up in weight to 140 has probably kind of also helped him as well. So showed a great beard there last night as well. And I think the scorecards didn't do him a lot of justice last night. At the very minimum, he deserves a rematch. Seeing it was a final eliminator, but again, as I say, I think Taylor just did enough to nick it. But if we're going to get this tournament, I think Postol's shown more than enough that he should be fighting amongst the top 8 guys in the division, without doubt. Great performance by both guys last night actually as well.
Andy, Kevin Chase was on to us on the Facebook page last night. He said, does anybody know what's up with Josh Taylor's eye? His post-fight interview, his pupil looked fucked. I know somebody did mention this, and Barry McGuigan said about the adrenaline, maybe a Bellew of the week coming up later. Some went in the eye, possibly?
Well, I've seen Shane mention something like that as well. So I know they use adrenaline solutions like was it 1 to 1,000 or whatever it is, but so that'll be Jimmy Tibbs. So I don't know if maybe they're trying to shift blame or maybe there was an issue in that, but I really don't know, mate. I'd need to maybe try and get in touch with some people to find out. But surely if there was a major concern, we might have kind of heard some whispers about now and stuff, but we'll wait and see, because he'll need to, I dare say before his next fight, or at some point he'll need to have a medical anyway, so any issues I dare say will get flagged up soon.
I would imagine so. Just looking at the official scores, Mr. Barbosa had it 117, 110. Victor Lachlan and Wide 118, 110. And a quite remarkable 119, 108 from Eddie Papoe. We had, who was it? Paul Massingham was talking about the scores. He said a bit harsh, the scorecard. The scorecards, I had it closer than that, maybe 2 or 3 rounds with Taylor's knockdown. I had a feeling that Postol's Dalseem arms, as Andy mentioned as well, gave him trouble. Never won it by those scorecards, though. Gabe was on Twitter as well, responding to Omar, who I was mentioning at the top of the show. I won't be on, says Gabe, unfortunately. But I will say I had it 114, 113 for Taylor. The margin of the fight was the knockdown. I didn't score it, Donny, but I was following along with your scorecard in our Twitter DMs with interest, and I pretty much liked the way that you scored it. You had it 115, 112. So, obviously 115, 113 with the knockdown as well, making a little bit of a difference. I liked your scoring, Donny, and that's what I'm going to go along with. Tell me how you came to that conclusion.
Well, Postol was clearly in control early on, uh, and then it evened up. I had it evened up 2-2 after four. I forget exactly how I got to 5-3 Postol. And actually, I think it was in the eighth round was Postol's best round. Was it the seventh or the eighth? But anyways, he looked like he was taking control of the fight, and it was like, Josh Taylor really needs to, because now, once the guy gets to 5 rounds on a card, if he takes one more, if there's no knockdowns, it's pretty much a draw, right? So I was like, boy, like this is a critical point in time, and where round number 9, where Taylor really needs to take control, and then he did, and he came up with a huge round, and he had Postol hurt in the beginning of the ninth round, and I don't think he really knew how much he had hurt him, and he kind of let him off the hook a little bit there. I thought there was a spot early in the ninth where, if he had kind of turned it on, he may have been able to come close to getting him out of there if he didn't get the job done, anyways. But once he had that big ninth round, then he just never let off the gas, and I had him sweeping the rest of the round. So I had a 5-3 Postol, then Taylor sweeping the rest. So I got to 7-5 plus the knockdown was 115, 112. I think the range of acceptable scores, I think, is about 114, 113 to about 116, 111. The 117, the guy on the official cards who had the 117, it's stretching it. I mean, you'd have to be given basically every close round to Taylor, but for the one that had 118 and the one that had 119, who was the guy that had 119?
Eddie Papoe.
I think he got paid off by by Barry McQuiggan or somebody. I don't know, man. That was shameful. I mean, I don't even know what fight he was watching. That guy should be investigated. But I mean, so yeah. But I mean, the only people that are really going to care about that, though, I think, are us hardcore fans. I think to the casual fans, what they know is that the right guy won, and that the result was just. And I mean, promoters and things who make the fights know that Postol still has a lot to give, and so he'll still be, brought over for as an opponent for guys in the UK, and he, still may have some noise to make for himself in that division, especially I think did you say there's going to be 8 spots in a potential tournament at 140?
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's 8 spots, then he'll obviously be in it, and he'll have a chance to redeem himself through his fights, and to only let nobody stand in his way. If he wins those matches in that tournament, then nobody can stop him. But he put up a really good fight, and I think later on, I think Taylor. First of all, what he didn't do early on was Taylor didn't work the body, and that was a big mistake actually, and that's actually something that he's known for. And I think it was because, like Andy calls them the Dalsum arms, but I think maybe he was worried about getting countered upstairs from outside by Postol. But eventually, once Postol, as often happens when a fight goes on, guys move a little bit less, because they're obviously, they're getting tired and things like that, and so, you don't move as much later in the fight. And so when he was able to really set his feet and get in there, he delivered some punishing shots to the body. Postol gave some good body work too, but Taylor's was the one that really, I think, turned the tide of the fight. And that's a lesson to, I think, all young fighters too, is that, it's not too late in round 8 or round 9 to go to the body, because that's when guys are tiring out anyways. And, and that it can actually turn it in those late rounds for you. And I think that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an excellent performance. He's obviously still learning. He's still growing, but I mean, I just can't see a world in which he's not, the champ at 140 pounds in the near future. I mean, it's just every time he fights, he seems to be showing us more and more. And to think that he only has 12 fights is pretty impressive.
Well, these are some of the issues, Donny, I was going to ask you about, actually. I mean, he showed a lot of resilience, Postol, and a good right hook to the body, but this was an excellent learning fight for Taylor at this sort of level. I mean, looking down the rankings here, obviously we've got Jose Ramirez as the champion. Things are slightly messy, aren't they? Because Regis Prograis has this interim belt as well. Where would you see Taylor shaping up against the likes of a Ramirez and a Prograis? Certainly wouldn't be out of place, Donny.
Well, no, he would not be out of place. I mean, I would love to see. I mean, I know that this person, now Taylor's going to be the mandatory for Ramirez, but Ramirez, I think, can take a voluntary first before
He's
he's
fighting
mandatory.
Danny O'Connor in July, I think.
Okay, so there's his voluntary, and I think because I think he just fought his mandatory not too long ago, so he theoretically has a little bit under a year, I think, to fight Taylor. I don't know if he's going to be eager to do so, or if this tournament might end up superseding what they normally do in terms of the obligations. But yeah, I mean, he'll certainly he'll be alive. I don't know if he'll be an underdog. Yeah, I mean, he probably might be an underdog, but it won't be by much.
Thanks, Donny. Shout out to everybody in the chat. All the familiar names are there. No sign of Chukwu yet. We'll endeavour to get him on if he appears. I know the fans are looking forward to that. Adam Smitho-Smith's with us as well. Dominic Henry will be coming to you in a minute. And Andy, don't get running off too much. We're going to be coming to you on the undercard. Bit of Martin Bacoli. Bit of good luck Marema.
Thanks,
I know you're pumped.
Fucking hell! Can you just like kill me quickly and just get it and done with? Jesus. Fuck.
No, get yourself all fluffed up and primed for that. Let's hit on Smido first of all. Smido, I know that you're the main betting guru, Adam, and Dan Mills, who is always asking us for the bets from you and from Aussie, actually had his first fight over the weekend. So congratulations to Dan Mills, 1-0, first fight ever. Feel free to hit me up for an interview, says Dan. Dan, you're always welcome to come on with us. I'm sure Smido will concur. Forget about Dan Mills, Smido. Tell me about Josh Taylor and Victor Postol. You were following with an eagle eye in the chat as well, weren't you, during the fight? You enjoyed it, didn't you, Smid?
Yeah, really enjoyed it. It's the only fight I watched over the weekend. It was one of them, really. Postol, we didn't know what he was going to bring to the party. And what he did bring to the party was pretty close to his best, to be fair. So that was a positive from the get-go. I thought it was perfect matchmaking beforehand, and I still think that now. Just an ideal test, really, for Josh Taylor. Absolutely ideal. It was. I had it 2-2 after 4. I thought Postol was using his length quite well, throwing right hands to the body, straight rights to the body pretty well. That were bothering Josh Taylor. I thought Taylor was hurting. I think was it the 7th, Steve? 7th, Taylor looked hurt.
Either 7th or the 8th, yeah.
Yeah, whichever it was. At that point, it was nice to see a bit of home cooking from the ref as well as the judges, whereby Ian John Lewis gave Josh Taylor in the most difficult moment in his whole career. He received a bit of a timeout from courtesy of Ian John Lewis there, which I thought was interesting and might have gone unnoticed at the time. And then I think that in around the 9th or 10th round, I've not read anything today, so it might be confirmed, but I wonder if Postol did something to his right hand or arm because he stopped throwing it as much. Like significantly, even a casual like me could tell that he wasn't throwing it hardly at all. And I think that's where Taylor came on strong, really, in the last 3 rounds. It was one of them. I think it was Taylor's first time over 12, so he was, maybe around the 6th, 7th, and 8th was questioning himself if he could do it. And the answer is yes, he can do it. And I thought, Taylor, obviously, the knockdown would have swinged it on most reasonable cards. But clearly, the judges ringside had a different idea. I've not really looked into the scorecards, but I think on average they gave Postol 1 or 2 rounds. Well, I gave him 5. So, I mean, I just think the cards were an absolute abomination. I think even Barry said as much in the interview after the fight. And as you said about Barry, Steve, he's a straight up guy. Nice to see him fronting up there, really, because it was them scorecards were completely disrespectful to Postol. And Postol, really, on the back of that, 34 years of age, did win a title, lost it pretty quickly, is still on the scene. And a performance like that on Channel 5, he could be someone that Matchroom would be interested in as well and as an opponent. Maybe he was too good in a performance to get on a Matchroom show, if you see what I mean. Maybe he was too good last night, but yeah, he's still got a fair bit to offer. He is going to be an opponent because he's going to have to travel. He's not a big name, etc. But Taylor, I just thought absolutely perfect. Development fight again for Taylor. However many fights he's had now, he's got some pretty big names on his record. the likes of Vasquez, Postol, O'Hara Davis was a good win at the time and still is now. You know, a good development fight. I think how many fights is that, Steve? 13, 14 maybe?
13. Do you think the O'Hara fight is also getting better as well with O'Hara's progress since he lost to Taylor?
It's difficult to say whether O'Hara has actually progressed since Taylor. Along the lines of, you know, is O'Hara Davis's best win before or after he fought Josh Taylor?
No, you're right. I meant progress as in he's still going.
Yeah, he's still going. No, he's still going. Obviously scored a notable knockout last night, which we've all seen clips of. O'Hara Davis ain't bad. He's a prick, obviously, but he ain't bad. He's 26 years old, O'Hara Davis. You know, and people, even in the matchroom days, which they can pinch of salt kind of stuff, but they was talking about his power. He obviously proved that again last night. He's proved it a couple of times since he's fought Josh Taylor. So I think that win will get better with time. I think Taylor. I mean, it's just a learning fight. I think that he's got the variety. He looks for the angles, and I think with the angles created the knockdown. Really, I think he was in danger of blowing a gasket in the last quarter of the fight himself. I think there was one occasion. I think it was before Taylor got hurt that he kind of registered his first clean flush blow on Postol. The crowd went up, and he kind of followed it in, which is all well and good. But I think Postol wasn't as hurt as the crowd or Taylor thought he was, and he was in danger of kind of blowing himself out. So he's still learning there. But yeah, overall, Taylor's proved quite a lot last night. He's proved he can go 12 rounds. He's proved he's still got the power at world level. Postol's not been to the canvas all that many times until he stepped up in levels. And he took a few shots last night as well, Taylor, to the head and body. And although at times, as mentioned, you know, in that seventh, he looked hurt, but he's nowhere near gone down. And he's not been bashed around the ring. He took time off a couple of times to get his senses back in him, and yeah, he's gone on to win well. It's just a shame about the judging cards. I know the saying goes that the right man won, but I don't think that's good enough nowadays, is it? It's virtually every week. It's virtually every week we're talking about terrible judging, and I don't know what the solution to that is, Steve.
Yep, sorry, Smid. I was just going to say, there's a lot of love for you in the chat tonight, Smido. Smido should stick to horse racing, says Crom John. I mean,
well, I've made profit last week, but it should have been a hell of a lot better. But I mean, Crom John's welcome to come on. I mean, if he wants to talk, I can talk horses, Brexit, I can talk boxing, whatever. I can talk hairstyles tonight. I don't know whether you saw that in the chat, Steve, but that's happened today. Go back and, just have a scroll back through the pictures.
Okay, and if you've got any betting tips for us, Smido, have a think, and we'll come to you later. Any of the big ones, you know,
I'll get it out there now. There's nothing really coming up. I know there's nothing really coming up next week. Obviously, the big heavyweight pay-per-view is coming up. Carlos Takam against Chisora. Now, Takam opened at an 8-11 favourite. Chisora 6-4. Chisora's shot, to be honest. He's past his best. He's been beat at European level, British level, and Takam, whichever way you want to cook it, is, you know, world level. He has took Joshua a lot further than what people thought. He had a good fight with Joshua Parker. So basically, Takam should be a lot shorter than 4-6. That's what I'm getting at. And that's not only the bet of the week, it could be the bet of the year. I know it's odds on, and you're not going to get rich quick on that. But if you can find any price that should be significantly shorter, then that's a bet. Simple as that.
Thank you, Adam. Crom John's bitten back. He said, "Shut up, Steve." I hate to break it to you, Crom John, but if I shut up, we ain't going to get very far, are we? But
Crom John's been on the ale this afternoon. England's won. Crom John's had a shot every time Harry Kane scored today. Go on, Crom John.
Go on. We love the chat. They were asking after the Guru as well. No sign of the Guru yet. We were expecting him to come on. Coming to Andy on the undercard shortly. Before we do, welcome to Dominic Henry. Always good to have you on, Dominic. It's been a while. the fans have been demanding you come back on, but we said no, we're gonna keep Dominic in his cage until it's time to release him. Tell me about Josh Taylor against Postol, Dominic. How did you see it, and what was your scorecard? Did you score it?
Good evening, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
I scored it the same as Taylor Dave, 115, 112. I really enjoyed the fight. I haven't been able to watch much boxing of late, Steve, but I had my eye on this fight for a long time, and I really, really enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was one of the best fights I've seen quite a while. I love fights like this here that are, they're real fights. There's nothing fake about it. It's real competitive stuff. But I mean, the scorecards were, see, whenever they announced the scores before they announced the winner, I actually thought, before they announced Taylor's name, I was actually thinking they're going to give it to Postol.
No, I thought the opposite. I thought, I know exactly what's coming here. It's going to be wide scores.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. What I was most impressed about with Taylor was, it's the first time in his career where that's around the 6th, 7th, 8th round where he had encountered real adversity, and you're just thinking, how's he gonna? Because he was in Postol, had won 2 or 3 rounds in a row, and he really was ripping that right hook to the body, and you could hear it every time he landed it. And I thought he reacted. He came out, I think it was the 9th round, he came out at the very beginning of the round like a man possessed. He just went after him. But the big thing that I took away from the whole fight, Steve, was I was watching very closely, and it was good that Channel 5 actually didn't go to not many odds in between rounds, so you could actually see what was being said in the corner in between rounds. But I was looking very attentively at the sort of interaction between Taylor and Shane McGuigan, and it was very clear around that mid part of the fight, round 6, round 7, when Postol was really on a roll. It was clear to me that Taylor was coming back to the corner, and he was saying, "I lost that round again." You could actually hear Taylor saying it loud and clear, and he was, I think, judging by a few things that Taylor said after the fight as well, was that Taylor decided himself to change tactics. He instead of trying to sort of outdo Postol at range, I think Taylor just decided, right, I'm just going to throw caution to the wind here and try and get as close to this man as possible and try and rough him up.
Did you notice, Dominic? Did you notice that Tibbs took over in a couple of the rounds and started talking, and Shane went a little bit quiet? Maybe I could be reading into it wrong or whatever, but it was like the voice of experience sort of took over for a minute.
Yeah, and I've noticed that dynamic, Steve, in a few fights where Tibbs has been in the corner, and it's not totally it's understandable in the sense that Shane McGuigan still. He's a very young guy, and he's still, I suppose he's still learning, and you can't expect him to know everything about it. But and I still think he's a very good trainer. But I just thought,
you locking somebody in the basement there, Dominic?
I'm sort of kicking someone out. I thought there was a bit of discord. Maybe that's too strong a way of putting it, but I thought there was a bit of disconnect between two of them, and it also the reason that I was looking out for that, I was looking out for it even from the start of the fight, because there's been a load of speculation about the nature of the relationship between Taylor and McGuigan's, whether Taylor's coming to the end of his contract and what's going to happen in the context of the whole business with Frampton, and whether Taylor's just playing out his contract until he's a free agent, and what the dynamic of the relationship is really like between the two parties, between Taylor and the McGuigans. But I think he will learn. Taylor's one of the fighters who I really try and keep an eye on him more so than most fighters, because I think I really think he's one of the best UK fighters to come around in quite a while. I think he has the potential to be, really, really, really good. And he's always, not only that, but the fights that he's in are exciting. Most of the fights that the guy's in are there's action in it. You know, he's an easy fighter to watch.
And they've done a good job with him, I think, matchmaking-wise as well. And it hasn't hurt the fact it's been on terrestrial television. I will give the McGuigans their due. I think they've done a good job with Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the sort of awkward body language between Nick Holling and the McGuigans. You know, I thought it was quite funny given the history of Nick Holling, you know, to watch. But yeah, you have to give it them. You know, there's been no, compared to someone like, you know, I saw snippets of the Yard fight last night, and I saw the sort of things Dave Coldwell was saying about Yard, which I broadly agree with. You compare that to Taylor's career path, you know, it's like light and day in terms of. Now, I know obviously people will come to Yard's defence and say, well, he only had, 12 amateur fights, and Taylor had an extensive amateur career, and therefore it's more understandable that Taylor is having such a tougher calibre of fight at such an comparatively early stage. But, you know, I think there's no excuse for Yard going to set you off track. There's no excuse for him not to be fighting the likes of Burton, Frank Buglioni, these type of people. You know, if he's talking the way he's talking about how great he is, and how the people around him are talking about how great he's going to be and how great he is, there's no excuse for not taking these fights, at least at domestic level. Whereas you look at Taylor, you know, what Smitho was saying about how impressive in hindsight the O'Hara Davis victory was. I think what I would say about that is what was impressive about it was not just the victory, but the way he beat Davies, more so than the victory itself. It was the way he showed the gap. It was light and day between the two of them. So I do think they've done a very good job with them, and I think it's the nature of having on terrestrial TV. It's sort of, you have to, if you're going to be bringing a fighter up on terrestrial TV, you have to have that sort of quality of fight. It doesn't work having, you know, crappy fights, because people are just going to turn off. But yeah, it'd be very interesting to see Taylor against either someone like Prograis or Ramirez. You know, I think I really rate him highly. I think he's genuine world class.
Steve, what I would add, I'd agree there about the how he's been campaigned. I think it's been pretty perfect so far. What I would add, use of the head last night was liberal at best from Mr. Taylor. I didn't like that. I didn't like that, to be honest, at all. And I think he should have been pulled up by the ref at least once.
Yeah, I agree with that. With Flanagan the other week and with Taylor this week, he has been quite liberal. Right, I'm going to endeavour to get our first guest on. While I do, Andy, tell me about the undercard briefly. I know it will be briefly. Richard Swig was asking about the Bacoli versus DL Jones fight, which I didn't actually see. It's basically meaningless, says Richard, but the presence of Al Bernstein instantly makes it worth watching. What was worth watching on that undercard, Andy, if indeed there was anything at all?
Yeah, just finishing up briefly on Taylor. Actually, he was rocked last night. I don't know if I mentioned that. So he did show. I mean, we needed to see him tested.
100%. 100%. Yeah, it was 7th or 8th round.
Yeah, I think it was 8th round, and he came back well for that as well, because he thought maybe he was trying to turn the tables, but showed he had he got a good beard. Held. I think he actually had to hold on actually, so she's a wee bit of experience here. So you know that's what you need kind of coming up as well. So you know. And obviously, again, Postol showed a good chin. That's for the undercard. What can we say about it? Chantal Cameron, which we thought was going to be the chief support, actually was the first fight on the card at 7 o'clock, whatever it was. There was a lot of gaps between fights, obviously because of the early knockouts. Bacoli hit this DL Jones by left hook, just high in the head, and that Jones had chip balance and poor kind of positioning sense anyway, but he just he couldn't take that power. Bacoli needs rounds. That's what he needs. He needs an opponent that's going to stand up to his shots, take him rounds and test him. I think he weighed something like 270 pounds there last night, which I don't know if you're up close to Bacoli in that. I don't think he's 270 pounds. Like, there's no fucking way he's weighed 270 pounds. No way. Tommy Philbin knocked out a guy in 1 round. So other than that, mate, the undercard was never much to write home about. It was pretty poor all round actually.
No problem. Thanks for that, Andy. We now have our first guest of the evening on the call. Delighted to welcome Ryan Doyle. How are you, Ryan?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself?
I'm keeping well. Thanks for joining us this Sunday evening. We're just talking about Josh Taylor. I don't suppose you got to see any of it last night by any chance?
Yeah, I did actually watch the fight. I was impressed. I think he's done a good account of himself. obviously boxed a world-class opposition. You know, he did really well.
And just looking at your career, Ryan, obviously you had an absolutely brilliant win there recently on the 6th of June against Rhys Bellotti. Do you want to give us the inside lowdown of how that one went from your point of view? Fantastic win.
Yeah, it went perfect, to be fair. We didn't think we'd get rid of him within the first 6. We thought we might have got, later on in the round. But over me with the victory, we got rid off. The bookies writ us off, everyone writ us off. But I'm tried and tested and battle hard, and me and my team knew we was capable of doing the job, and obviously we did it on the night.
Do you think, obviously, he was 12-0, you had a couple of losses on the record, but you were just that bit more experienced, that bit more battle-hardened, and he hadn't, seen anything like that in his career so far?
No, that's what I mean. That's what we was like. Well, we knew I was more, more battle-hardened. The only defeats I've got on my record is obviously for being short notice. Obviously, I fought James Tennyson and I broke my hand in that fight. I had to withdraw out of it. But again, I was in the fight. I was never, outclassed or anything like that. And then obviously the time I lost to Ian Bailey, I revenged that defeat by obviously tweeting for the English title. So obviously going into them fights, I've been in a lot of hard fights, and we knew it was more battle hardened, and then that's why we're looking to drag into the later rounds. But obviously the stoppage came earlier.
Yeah, you mentioned the James Tennyson fight. I was actually at that one. You went up in weight. James is a massive super featherweight as it is, and you were doing okay in the early rounds, but he just caught up with you. Was it just a case of the weight? Tennyson was too big, short notice, and all of those type of things?
Yeah, it was a combination of different things. I tore my ACL in my knee, and I was out of the gym for maybe 4 months, 5 months prior, before I took the fight. I was only actually in the gym 6 weeks. And we was just getting ready for the 6th round. So obviously, it was just like a comeback fight. Obviously, I got the phone call and, I took the opportunity. But like you say, it's a combination of different things. Obviously, I think obviously the massive super featherweight, big in the weight, big puncher, and obviously I had the right and correct, preparation for it. But like I say, it was a good fight while it lasted.
In 2015, you went in against Isaac Lowe, who's done pretty well for himself recently. I know he has had a loss as well, but you fought to a split draw for the English title. What was that fight like, and would you like a rematch at some point down the road, Ryan?
Yeah, it was a good fight, good 50-50 fight. If I'm honest with you, I thought I pinched it. I thought I did enough to win. But if you speak to Isaac say there's actually a saying, he thought he did enough to win. So it was a good fight, Go for the fans. Others would have loved it, And I can see a rematch on the horizon. Definitely a fight I'd like to have on again.
Just to remind our listeners, we've got Ruthless Ryan Doyle on the call at RuthlessRyan17 over on Twitter. Go and get following. You've got the Commonwealth title now, Ryan. What's the plans? Next few fights, where are you looking to take this?
Let's just see how it all pans out. Obviously, I'm looking to get a defence of the Commonwealth title now. Once I've done that, I'm looking to move on. Some great fights. Obviously, got Ryan Walsh for the British title, so that's a fight I'm looking at. And then obviously the European or something like that. But I've been told to look for rematches for me and Rhys Bellotti. So the future's looking bright in a minute. There's there's loads of big fights on, especially on a domestic level. And I should be able to visit the back end of this year and all into next year.
Are you looking for a big fight at home, maybe, in front of your own fans? You have had to fight on the road in the past, including the Bellotti fight, including the Tennyson fight. Do you think you do one at home now you've got the title?
Yeah, definitely. Bring a good fight, back in Manchester. Obviously, I'm waiting for the Undercard and the MEN. Hopefully, there'll be a big fight announced there. But yeah, definitely a homecoming fight. Like I say, I've not had my career easy. I've been on the road, and I've taken short notice fights, and I've had the bumps and bumps, and it'd be nice to fight back home again.
I'm going to see if any of our guys want to ask you any questions, Ryan. Just in case you can't hear them, then don't worry, I will relay the question to you. But Adam's going to ask you something now if you can hear him.
Ryan, the question from me is: did you back yourself to beat Rhys Bellotti? Because Ozzie Smith of Boxing Asylum fame said that you were a good bet. I had a bet on you at 6.5, 8-1, and then on the night someone went 10-1, so I backed you again, and you did the business. So you're my hero. But is that something that you and your mates did? Did you back yourself at them tasty prices?
So is that about backing myself? For the fight?
Adam was saying that even though a lot of people were writing you off against Bellotti, a couple of the guys on this podcast actually backed you. Did you and your mates back yourself, to win the fight?
We did, actually. Between family and friends, we just won just under 100 grand. Obviously, between family and friends.
Bloody hell.
My management and my trainer, one of my close friends, they won 10 grand on the night. Another lad won 18 grand, obviously putting silly money on. But yeah, we backed myself. There's a little funny story about that. I actually put a grand on myself to win. That's how confident I was. And the missus came around and said to me, take it off, Ryan, take it off, because you're just tempting fate. So pull it off. So like you did, I pulled it off. I listened to it. I cashed out for £970. Ended up knocking the race out. So I'd have been 9 grand up, but it's one of them things.
Brilliant stuff. So if Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren get on the phone, you're happy to take calls, you're happy to take all comers pretty much, Ryan?
That's it, yeah. I'll fight anybody. Like, I'll turn around and say, you see in my career, I'll fight anybody. But all of the wrestlers, the right notice, for the fight, obviously, when I picked up, obviously, they've been, on short notice or whatever. That's why he take me out to race. But, he give me 6 weeks of a training camp, which I've never had that before. And, he give me the time and the best round I'll turn up on the night. So, hopefully, if I get the notice, to defend me Commonwealth, like I say, I'll fight anybody.
Just a final couple of questions, Ryan, and thanks for joining us. Who trains you and where do you train?
I'm training at the old Yarns gym, Phoenix camp. I'm currently trained off Robert Rimmer, Bobby Rimmer's son. Yeah. He's training and things are going well at the minute. I'm learning every day and things are slowly falling into place.
And if Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder get it on anytime soon, who do you fancy to win, Ryan?
It's a fight for 2 halves. Everyone said this. Me personally, I think Joshua. I just think technically, his defence is more tighter and, he throws the shot straight down the middle where Deontay Wilder throws a lot of looping shots. So that's why I think Anthony will catch him, obviously, the straight shots down the middle. But it's a fight of 2 halves. Personally, I think Joshua, but you never know. It's the heavyweight division. One push can change anything.
And you're a Steve Wood fighter, isn't that, Ryan? Shout out to Steve because he's a good guy. He comes on with us and he does a good job with his fighters, Steve Wood.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, Steve got me the opportunity. He was looking at fighting at super featherweight because obviously I was getting a lot of short notice fights. But hat off to Steve, he got me the fight at featherweight, which I was asking for. He got me the right notice, and so I would come out, Commonwealth champion. It's a good part of Steve, helping me out and he's been through my career.
That's where we'll leave it, guys. At RuthlessRyan17 on Twitter. Go ahead and follow Ryan Doyle's career. We will watch it with interest. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. Any final shout-outs or anything you want to plug?
No, Sal, but I appreciate you having me on anyway.
No problem. All the best. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye. Ryan Doyle there. Good to hear from Ryan. Excellent win against Reece Bellotti. One person who did back him, as Smitho mentioned, was Ozzy Smith. Ozzy, welcome to the show. Good to have you on. Thanks for sorting out that interview with Ryan. But we're talking Josh Taylor, Victor Postol. That's what I want to hear from you about. I'm sure that you agree with us. Taylor was the right winner, but maybe the methods of the scorecards wasn't quite all it should have been.
Yeah, 3 appalling cards. I had it very close. I had it around either way. Last night I watched it and I had Postol winning actually by a round. Watched it again. And I think you can see either way, around either way. I think it was very close, but to see 3 cards of like 117, 110. I think the first one that was read out was Victor Loughlin's at 118, 110. And I thought, he's been absolutely barbecued here, Postol. And it's been a bit disrespectful because, if you just look at that on paper, you think, well, Taylor's done a complete number on him. He's knocked him down as well. But in reality, that couldn't be far from the truth, to be honest. I thought it was a very tough fight and Josh Taylor answered every question of him last night. He took a shot and he was buzzed as well and he looked hurt and he really had to hold on. He recovered. He knocked Postol down with an excellent shot and then I was impressed with the way he finished the fight as well. He didn't look tired considering it's the first time he's gone 12 rounds and I was really, really impressed. Bit naughty, like I said, he was going in with the head, but the little tricks that maybe you wouldn't think like a 12-0 fighter would have, like It's maybe someone who's a bit more experienced, you know, like a 20-0 or something, you know, like where they've done hundreds of rounds, etc., things like that, to bore him with the head, or like pulling him down with the glove, you know, like pulling the head down, etc., things like that. But no, overall, I was a bit disrespectful to Victor Postol last week. I actually thought Josh Taylor would stop him. Probably didn't give him enough credit, to be honest. At the end of the day, this guy had only lost to Terence Crawford. And I think perhaps, I think I was judging off his last performance, Postol, where he looked a bit laboured. And I thought, maybe did the Crawford fight take a lot out of him? When in reality, it clearly didn't. And he gave Taylor a real tough night's work. But sadly, whilst it was an excellent performance and win for Josh Taylor, it was marred by 3 appalling cards. I mean, Eddie Papo, 119-108. Absolutely shambolic. I just can't see how you could give that card. And I think it was round 7, which was probably Postol's best of the fight. And Eddie Papo awarded it Taylor. I just don't understand what these judges see. And I think cards like this now, I think they need to be explained. I really do. I want to know what these people see. At the end of the day, the professionals in what they do. I was looking on my Twitter last night after the cards were announced, and obviously follow a lot of boxing people, and people's opinions I respect, and who have sat ringside for hundreds of fights, and they know what they're on about, and not one person had a card that resembled a 118-110 or a 119-108, anything like that. Everybody had it. A couple of rounds to Taylor, a round to Taylor. Some had it to Victor Postol as well. The knockdown probably being the deciding factor. But not very impressed. Just sadly, we're talking about the cards again in the UK, which this day and age, you're more likely to get home cooked in England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, compared to Spain, Germany or Italy, which were once notorious for absolutely horrendous cards, when in reality, the UK is just as bad these days.
Yeah, I was just going to note, though, isn't it interesting, like when Ozzy was talking about, the Terence Crawford fight there. I mean, as much as, like, we think Josh Taylor is extremely talented, and I think definitely looks like a future world champion at the 140 pounds, Terence Crawford didn't lose a round to this guy. You know what I mean? Like, that... I think it also just speaks to his ability. I mean, we already know he's an excellent fighter, but I mean, it's just to see that there is that another level out there that just exists is kind of unbelievable, really. It really is a testament to his skills, because I think Josh Taylor's very good, but, he was in a tough fight last night, whereas Crawford just never even, I don't think he even breathed hard.
No, I agree with that, but one thing you remember, this was Taylor's 13th fight. Now, I don't know if it was touched on, but the matchmaking for Josh Taylor has been absolutely superb. A prime example of how you should match somebody who has got levels and levels of ability. They've not fucked around with anybody, like any of these no marks, and like built his record up. They've put the money where the mouth is. Whether that money actually gets distributed, who knows? But what was it, Dave Ryan in his, 6th fight, something like that? Mm-hmm. A great fight, and he absolutely destroyed Dave Ryan. I was at that fight then, and he absolutely wiped the floor with him. He then went on the road went out to America, didn't he? I think it was on the Frampton Santa Cruz undercard. Got on 8 rounds under his belt. Came back, bit disappointed with the Warren Joubert defense. He wasn't anything special, and I think Taylor pretty much wiped the floor with him.
You can see why they take those fights, though. That's like a low-picking fruit. It's like Josh Kelly against Chris George, like the Australian, the South African. You can see why they take those fights.
Yeah. I think. I mean, it was a defense, that one, wasn't it? I mean, it was. But it was one of them. Yeah, I think you're gonna allow that. But then he followed that up with a win against O'Hara Davis, a great win. Davis has clearly got power, and I think Taylor admitted himself that he felt the power as well, but he did a real number on him. Miguel Vasquez, you excuse the Campos fight, that was a late replacement. That what can you do when somebody pulls out a week before? And then they pull out a WBC final eliminator with Victor Postol, and like I said, he gets the win there. So the matchmaking for Josh Taylor has been absolutely superb, and I applaud Cyclone for that, because it's refreshing to see the lad's got bags of ability. They've not fucked around. They've not tried to pump his record up. They've put the money where the mouth is, and he's answered every question and defeated everything that's in front of him. Really looking forward to seeing what happens next, and I think he's going to be in for the WBC World Title unless he goes in the World Boxing Super Series. I know it was mentioned last night, and they were a bit coy on whether he was going to go in the Super Series because they were adamant they want the WBC World Title next.
No, I saw last night online. Is he 27 years old?
27 or 28, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was just curious. I mean, did he just have a really long amateur career, or did he start boxing late? Because
no, I had a long amateur career. I think he was in the World Boxing Series as well.
He won gold at the Commonwealths, didn't he?
Yep. I think that was that was late as 2014. He turned over about 2015, I think.
Yeah.
Just check now.
He was about 24 when he turned over, I think, wasn't he?
2015, he turned over him.
Yeah.
2015. I didn't realise he made his debut in America, actually.
I was on that Frampton card where he got that against the boy, Gonzalez.
Yes, yeah, I didn't realise that. Bloody hell.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was in Texas, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, right, let's bring in hater Dave Lowe back. Dave, you are a hater, as your name would suggest, but I know that you are a lover of all things Josh Taylor. Am I right? You're a Taylor fan? What did you think of last night, Dave?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan. I don't know about lover yet, but I mean, yeah, I'm definitely a fan. I loved and I'm happy to say that I did get on the train later than some of you guys because, I mean, he is a Brit / Scot, but I did get on the train early enough that he wasn't at world level yet, so I got to appreciate some of his great performances and, like last night, great fights. It was after the O'Hara Davies drubbing that I hopped on that train. And last night was awesome. I think so Omar on Twitter asked us if we could all give our scorecards. I guess most of you guys have probably already done that. Mine was in the realm of what most people's I saw were 115, 112. Josh Taylor. The judges got the right winner, but the thing is, if Postol, say he had, which he didn't, if he had come out in the last 2 rounds and won them conclusively, I think most of us felt the fight was on the table, and he would have won it if he'd done that. If he'd done that on the official judges' cards, it wouldn't have mattered at all. He would have just it would have been like an 8-4 loss for him or something. So abysmal judging, can't stand that at all, and that really did mar the fight. I have to give credit to Barry McGuigan though for first thing he said. I think maybe the first or second thing he said on the mic after the fight was that margin was too wide on the judges' cards. So props to him for that. He can admit that. And we like to see even promoters are able to give credit to the opponent, not just to big up their own fighter like Eddie Hearn often does and say, oh, he's taking on a real good challenger. This guy's fringe world level. But no, because that's actually the way the fight went down. And Postol was very much in it. I wouldn't argue with a scorecard that had him winning by a point or two. It was close enough. Ozzy, I think, had it for Postol last night, and I think it's good for Josh Taylor fans as well that it was a hard, close, tough fight because you want him in there with a good version of Postol. You don't want to say, well, he got Postol when he was very inactive at the end of his career. You know, he could just kind of beat up an old man. No, it was good that Postol was still in fighting form, looked excellent. Arguably one of the better performances of his career, really, considering the level of the guy he was in there with. Well, what we think is the level. I think Josh Taylor's very good. And being that it is early in his career, I would like to see how he advances. But my dream, my fantasy that's sort of coming together here for boxing would be that, I mean, Crawford, we expect him to do well at 147. I'd probably pick him to beat Spence at this point. So say Crawford's the 147 king, Josh Taylor clears out 140, and in a year, 2, 3, they have a super fight, Josh Taylor versus Terrence Crawford. I would love to see that, maybe at a catch weight, maybe at just a 147. I think that would be great. And I think that I would not write Josh Taylor off as far as getting to that level. I think at this point, obviously, I favor Crawford to beat him. But, you know, you never know what can happen in the future. Still early in his career. And styles make fights, absolutely. Because Crawford and Taylor have definitely different styles, but I think a similar dog in both of them. That they'll find a way to win or to change the way things are going in a fight if they're not doing so well. And Postol was really doing well, especially in the middle rounds of that fight. He dictated range perfectly. He had him on the end of all of his punches. Taylor looked really confused. He looked like he was wilting in the 7th and 8th rounds. I thought he was in real trouble. But he credit to him in that youthful energy. He got his second wind and just really roared back into it. And I don't think Postol really seemed to have it. Looked a little bit like Vlad in the. Obviously comparisons to Vlad are a regular thing with Postol. He looks like him. Yeah. He fights a little bit like him. He's Ukrainian, but it looked a little bit like Vlad in the Joshua fight. Like he didn't have that extra gear at his age anymore to go to. So he kind of just had that first gas tank instead of the second one, and it ran out. And he couldn't really do too much more with Josh's second rally. I'll let somebody else talk now. I've been going on for like half an hour.
No, well, Dave, you were out for dinner earlier. That's why we got you late. What did you have?
All right. Well, I was with Chang, and he always makes an excellent gourmet feast. But tonight he decided to bring in some chicken feet, which is apparently a Chinese delicacy.
Yeah, they're nice. I've had them, yeah.
Oh, well, okay. I thought they were basically like tiny little scraps of Jell-O on the surrounding bone. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with the chicken feet, but, the rest was good.
Excellent. Thank you for that, David. Well, last night, I was just talking in the chat, actually, about another Dave Allen, heavyweight extraordinaire. He got knocked out by Tony Yoka in the 10th and final round of their fight over in France. I didn't actually see this one. If anybody saw it, want to make any comments, then jump in now.
I saw bits of it, Steve. Dave Allen hardly threw anything. He didn't look in the best of shape. He stayed on his feet for probably longer than expected, probably longer than the opponent expected. He didn't go down, I don't think. And yeah, that was it. It rolls on. But I just, I don't know, there's a fine line, isn't there, with Dave Allen, because a likeable character, clearly not scared of losing or fighting anyone. Both go hand in hand. But he's had his ups and downs and quite serious ones. And he just, again, we've seen him on the scales. We've seen him in the ring. I think he landed like 26 punches in 9 or 10 rounds. Not good. But he's earning money. He's on the road. I don't know. There just seems to be a fine line with Dave Allen. That's all I'm saying. He'll come out and say, full camp, or I'm really concentrating now, this, that, and the other. But then the evidence in the ring, it's not great.
Ozzy, I'm coming to you now. Shout out to Crom John in the chat. He said he's going to do a breakaway pod with Jason Chuckwill. I'm sure that's going to be brilliant. Crom John,
can suck my melons.
If you want to come on tonight, Crom John, and have some practice, then give me a shout and I'll send you the link. We're more than happy to have you on and come and talk to Smido and all the boys. So Crom John, hit me up and come on and join us. Right, Ozzy, tell me about Dave Allen, not the funny one who's dead, the actual heavyweight. I just don't understand the lad. He made statements after he got beat off. After the Lenroy Thomas second fight, saying he was going to go away on the small hole scene, get a few fights under his belt, and then look to come back. He has made an obvious U-turn on that. His management team rejected the Daniel Dubois fight, asked for ridiculous money, £100,000 package. Allen said he didn't want to be the opponent. He then balloons up, as he always does, because eating carveries, ice cream, things like that. And then takes a Tony Yoka fight at 3 weeks' notice, said he's going to give it his all. And his only mechanism of defence was using his head. And that was it. I think, like Smid said, landed, 20-odd punches, or something like that, in 10 rounds. The guy can clearly take a shot. And fine, great, well done. But he can't do a lot else. And I just don't really understand it. And, I mean, he gets these opportunities. Bear in mind, he's come from the small hall scene. And how difficult it is for a fighter at any weight
to get an opportunity on these bigger bills, you know, like they get one opportunity, like Ryan Doyle, his chances were coming in, you know, at like 4 days' notice or a week's notice, and you're really up against it. But he got a Lenroy Thomas fight on the back of fighting Dillian White and Luis Ortiz completely out of shape. But he got that because he's got banter and he's got a Twitter following. He then blew the first Lenroy Thomas opportunity because he didn't get himself in nick. He came back, and I give it to him. He knuckled down and he got himself in shape for the second Thomas fight. And then a horrible cut ended it in round 1. But for that first round, nothing had changed. He clearly lost the first fight. He didn't throw anything and got tagged regularly. He then went away. He beat, I think he beat some absolute knockover job. Then he beat David Howe again. He knocked him out in the 4th round. And then he takes this Yoka fight, and he makes comments as if, oh, yeah, I'm a real good fighter. But based on what? I want to know what this is based on, really. He slags people like Dubois off and things like that. Oh, I'll take him to deep water. Based on what? Your best win's Larry Olabamiwo, who's utter shite and things like that. And I just don't.
Peds as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Ozzy, can you just repeat that name, please? I didn't get it the first time.
Larry Olabamiwo.
Yes, I love the way you say that.
but no.
Olabamiwo.
I used to say Larry Olabamiwo, but I mean, I might be wrong. It's good though. It's good conversation.
We've had him on our podcast too. That's we should have had them both on for the pre-fight.
We've had some top talent on our podcast. We really fucking have.
Podcast for the people. But no, back to my Dave Allen hate. I just want to know where he goes next. I really do, because what is he now? He's probably out of his last 6 fights, he's lost 4 or something like that. I've got a draw, technical draw in there as well. What's he going to do? Is he going to go on the road? I mean, he sells a bucket load of tickets. I mean, he took people to France with him. So he has clearly got to follow him. But it's like, what's he going to do now? He needs to take this thing seriously. Otherwise, he will get hurt. You cannot take shots off 17 stone blokes regularly without any blocking them for 10 rounds solid regularly. And he's not won a round against any of these guys. Like I said, his wins are over, knock over people like that. And if he goes in with Dubois will ice him, absolutely ice him in 2 rounds. He will destroy him, absolutely destroy him. Nathan Gorman will absolutely destroy him. I really don't see where he's going to go next. Like I said, he gets all these opportunities and he blows them because he can't keep himself in shape. And I've no sympathy for him. Yeah, he got a decent payday. But just think about if you'd have won, what that could have led to.
How much do you reckon he got paid last night?
He said it was a career high payday. Now, I think he got off...
100 grand?
Oh, God, no. Fuck no. Absolutely no way. Probably...
Money in French boxing now, guys. There are a lot of TV deals not getting... they're showing a lot of cards over there at the minute, so...
40 maybe, do you think?
No way, I'd have said 15, 20. He only got 10 to box Dillian White, I think.
Well, how much did he get to fight Ortiz?
Similar, 8K, 10K.
Is that all?
Okay. Fuck's sake, you fight Luis Ortiz, 8,000 fucking quid.
He could die.
He got peanuts. Utter peanuts.
He could die.
The thing is,
it might be a bit more.
It
might be 15.
Fuck me, man.
Exactly, yeah. It might have been 15 and 10 or something like that, but it was peanuts.
Yeah, the chat have cleared it up. Aussie MB says 30 grand and AA says 20 grand, so we're none the wiser.
I love these people that are in the know, by the way.
20 grand for boxing who?
Yoka, I think we're talking about.
Oh, Yoka. That's interesting then, if he did get that. I mean, yeah, great, good payday, but then what happens? You've lost. And there's only so long you can dine out on this tough man opportunity, when in reality, you're soon going to be forgotten. Like I said, the Dubois fight, he'd have had a 12-week camp. And bear in mind, if you go and knock over Dubois with the hype he's got at the moment, that will do you the world of good. He rejected it because he didn't want to be the opponent, and then took a fight with Tony Oka at 3 weeks' notice, 2 weeks' notice. I don't understand the logic between himself and his management. I really don't.
Hey, Roz, do you reckon the French commentators last night said, well, He might be only coming in at 3 weeks' notice, but he was in training for another fight, and as you can see, he's in good shape. Do you reckon the Nick Hall in French TV said that?
Who knows? He came in a beret, didn't he? He came down the ring as a into Shawn Michaels' theme in a red beret as well.
You know, something I noticed about this podcast is we do tend to spend a fair amount of time discussing losers of fights. It's understandable because so much of our audience is British. But I just wanted to throw a quick word in for Tony Yoka. What have you guys seen in him? Where do you guys think he's going in the pros? Personally, I haven't seen him since he fought Joe Joyce in the Olympics, and he got his ass kicked. So I'm waiting for that fight.
He got his ass kicked by Joyce?
In the Olympics.
I don't know if he got his ass kicked.
Oh, I thought that was a brutal robbery.
Can't remember, to be honest. I'm not going to comment. Actually, I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe the guys can put me right. Right. I'm going to move on anyway. I'm sick of talking about Dave Allen, and I'm sure everybody else is sick of listening about him. Donny, are you still with us? Donny, yeah. You back in the recliner?
Yeah.
Yo, Donny. Oh, yeah, I want to talk to you about Miguel Berchelt. Do you want to talk about Miguel Berchelt?
Sure.
Beauty, Donny, your sounds like his shit, mate.
Wait.
Donny, you sounded like a xylophone.
How about now?
Yeah, that's about better.
Yeah, okay. No,
that's better. When you go fire away.
Go on.
Berchelt was I was in the recliner. That was funny, Steve. But no, I did see Berchelt last night, and I thought he looked very good. He was in there with Jonathan Victor Barros, who had actually moved up from featherweight to super featherweight.
Fucking tiny compared to Berchelt, man.
Just say you could really tell. And yeah, I mean he. It's funny because I know that sometimes Andy says, well, we should go back to the original, weight classes or whatever and get rid of these intermediate weight classes. But, and there is some merit for that. I totally agree with that. It'd be probably better for the fans, but you can definitely see the difference sometimes when a guy moves up from 126 to 130 and you're like, oh, it's only 4 pounds. Like he looked like a much smaller guy in there. And he got ragdolled, knocked down in the second, knocked down again in the third, and the second knockdown in the third round, the trainer ran in there with a towel and stopped it. Barros was pretty angry, but I think his trainer realized that he could live to fight another day, and that tonight, or last night rather, was not going to be his night no matter what happened. But I think it was a very good move on the trainer's part. Berchelt is interesting, actually. That was his third defense of the title. He will be having to fight Roman now, I think, who's the mandatory. That'll be a good fight, but I think that now with Lomachenko out of 130 and up to 135, Berchelt actually might be the best fighter at that weight, and I think he's going to prove it very, very soon if the opportunities come along. I mean, he's still got Gervonta Davis in that weight class. You got Roman, and you also still have Francisco Vargas, who Berchelt actually already beat and totally dominated, actually. And that was, I think, last year or the year before. But I think he's definitely one of the best fighters at that weight class for as long as he can remain there. Like I said, he looked pretty big at the weight last night, or maybe it was just Barros looked small, or maybe it was a combination of the two. But I was definitely impressed with his performance. Berchelt's only actually ever lost once, and it was earlier in his career. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago or something, and he lost to a guy with, he was knocked out in the first round on a freak punch, kind of got him in an exchange and just knocked him out. So he's kind of like a Badu Jack type in a way, where he kind of suffered that early first round knockout and set him back a little bit. But ever since then, he's actually done excellently, and I think he has passed every test given to him. And I think now the test for him is, can he dominate this division? And I think he can.
Andy, you saw this word on Berchelt briefly?
He just looked huge, mate. Just had his way with the guy, as Donny says. I know Barros was a decent fighter at a certain weight, but he's seen better days, and Berchelt's he's on the rise, and he's just okay. But he's been in a few tough fights, so we'll give him this one. But that's all you can say really. It was just a kind of keep busy fight. I caught just talking about veterans and stuff. I caught a wee bit of the Oscar De La Hoya show last night on ESPN. That Virgil Ortiz, he's a 9-0 prospect.
Yeah, meant to be decent,
like,
isn't he, Andy?
20-0. He'd handled, knocked out that Juan Carlos Salgado. Actually, he's a two-time world champion. He's been in with the best, man. He fought Linares, Uchiyama, Argeni Mendez, Miguel Beltran. I'm sure he's been in with Barrios as well. Takahiro Ayo, so he's been with a lot of good operators and stuff, and the kids blast him away in 3 rounds. So it's a bit of a statement winning that for that kid. Like,
right, Smido, I know you didn't see the Frank Warren show. Did anybody see the Frank Warren show at all? I was flicking backwards between it. I thought, my overriding thoughts, O'Hara Davis looked good. He pretty much rewired that Kamanga. That guy was absolutely done. Anthony Yard, the whole thing with him, I mean, Frank Warren was sort of, he was flummoxed whenever the Ronald McIntosh mentioned the likes of Adonis Stevenson. He was like, oh, this kid's learning. We'll take him at our own pace. Well, what's he doing at number 2 in the WBO rankings then? I mean, he's going to be mentioned with fighters like that if he's so high in the rankings. I mean, there's no other way about it. Yard looked good. He picks his punches well. He's a hard hitter. I was impressed with him to a degree last night. But you've got to rate him against the likes of Gvozdyk and all these guys as well. I mean...
Steve, they said...
During that show last night, during all that excitement last night on the Channel 5 card, we actually had the BT card up on at ringside. Seen Davis, that was about it, and we seen Dubois kind of deal with a guy for 5 rounds. I'm not watching anything else of that card. Like,
I think Tom Little just emptied a little bit from what I saw, and Dubois, with them big bludgeonly body shots, kind of got to him in the end. But Anthony Yard, sick of talking about this guy. Like, you say about the WBO ranking, Steve. Let's assume that in a perfect world, Frank Warren's not in bed with the WBO and there's no corruption whatsoever. He can't do anything about the rankings. He just maneuvers his fighter and keeps winning and goes up the rankings. Right? If you want to believe in a perfect world, so that ranking is now a stick to beat Frank and Anthony Yard with. And fair enough. I've got no problem with that. Beat him as much as you want. Anthony Yard last night fought a bloke that had only won one of his last 4 fights. I think he'd had a couple of draws in there. But then they're like bigging up and saying, he's never been knocked out and he's a southpaw. And then like they're tweeting stuff like southpaw test, tick. Never been put down, tick. Fuck off. Like they were saying a year ago, what was it? When they didn't fight Burton, who had lost to Buglioni, when they didn't fight Burton, it was, we're going to fight someone ranked higher than Jose Burton. I think they've still failed to do that. I know Stieglitz, was it? No, it wasn't Stieglitz, was it? Sorry, who was the fella that Ozzy mentioned the other week?
Shezlocker.
Shezlocker, sorry. So maybe they have achieved that in fighting Shezlocker, i.e. someone better than Jose Burton. But, as I always say, expectations and delivery. We're expecting someone from the WBO top 10. We get some idiot that basically is like Anthony Yard is just plodding through people. Like he's fighting people that offer absolutely nothing to be worried about in offense. Like last night, Josh Taylor has come through a brilliant test, brilliant matchmaking, and come through it on the other side. Will learn, will develop, knows he can do 12 rounds, chin's been tested, etc. Anthony Yard has never had any of that. So unless they plan to keep turning down world title fights or world title eliminators and keep fighting idiots, which I'm assuming that there's not the long-term plan, we're going to have another example of a British fighter from fighting absolute trash to as soon as they step up to anything half decent, they're going to get found out bad. Like, and Andy's mentioned this before. He can take the credit for the point, not me. The way that Anthony Yard fights and the way that Anthony Yard looks and walks around that is not conducive to a long career. So he needs to hit now while he's potentially at his peak. We don't know if he's at his peak, but potentially this is where you need to hit. You can't just go around fighting idiots, and that's what they're doing.
Ozzy, go ahead. You jump in. Tell me first of all about Garcia and Murray. Any interest whatsoever in this one?
Not particularly. No, it was one of those. Really, Martin Murray did what he had to do. It wasn't a great fight. I mean, he came out with some ludicrous statements like he would have schooled Billy Joe Saunders that night. But
it was like a sympathy fight, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, fair play. They kept him on the card. He's had to fork out obviously for one camp. It got postponed. A second one, so they got him the fight, and he's got this silver belt. There it goes. It seems like Frank's got an agreement with Martin Murray now to promote him further down the line. So let's wait and see. I don't think we'll see it again. Murray Saunders. So it'd be interesting to see who they put Murray in with next.
You got any more to give, Ozzy?
Oh, sorry, yeah. O'Hara Davis, superb stoppage. I think they're going to... essentially, if Catterall can come through unscathed next week against Tyrone McKenna, that's going to be lined up for the Carl Frampton card in Belfast. So that's a real good fight, one to look forward to, providing Jack can win next week against Tyrone McKenna. Or if Tyrone McKenna causes the upset, then I think it'll be him with O'Hara Davis. Thought Smido was spot on about Anthony Yard. He's clearly hiding something. I didn't. I'm not told this. I saw it on Twitter. I forget who off somebody who said that their team are reluctant to fight to spar top level guys as well. So again, does that show something? A lot of his opponents can't punch, but he needs to step up now. You can't be ranked number 2 in the world rankings and then still need learning fights. It's just not acceptable. So they need to step his opposition up. Otherwise, I think people are already sick of him already. He can clearly punch with both hands, and he does have some ability. But let's test him out now. There's some good fights to be made at the British level. Let's make them. Buglioni is there. Go and make the fight with him. If he can go and destroy Buglioni, that is a good win, and it gives you an idea of where he's at. Dubois, very impressed with him. I think that's the best he's looked in his pro career. I enjoyed the variety of shots. He can clearly punch, and the body shot that dropped Tom Little in the 4th was... You won't see many better than that. Little did well to get up, but I think it wiped pretty much everything out of him, that, and Dubois did well too, and then just got rid of him in the 5th.
Ozzy, I like a heavyweight who hits to the body.
Definitely, and it was good to see as well. And Frank's got a couple of good ones now because Nathan Gorman, he's another talent as well, and he's only young. And I think the plan is to probably match Gorman and Dubois further down the line. So that's one to look forward to. But at the moment, I'm happy keeping them apart, keep them on in learning fights. Like I said, big Nathan Gorman did a great job on Sean Turner, and Daniel Dubois has done a real good job on Tom Little. So English champion now. It'd be interesting to see where they step him up next. I'd like the Nick Webb fight. He's only beaten Tin Cans. Go and knock him over. And I like Dubois. He's got a great jab. He showed variety. Still a lot to learn. He's only a baby, like Billy Nelson said, so there's no need to rush with it. But what I do like about him as well, there's no bullshit with him. He literally gets in the ring, wins, and leaves. He's one of the shittest on the camera I've ever seen.
But we saw a bit of his personality this week. Tom Little was getting into him at the press conference. He goaded him with comments about Dubois' dad, I believe.
Did he? I missed that. I saw him actually, but I didn't realise he mentioned his dad.
Yeah, it was at the press conference. So they were on the lower tier of the table, if you see what I mean. But yeah, they was firing some shots at each other. Tom Little said he was going to take him into deep water, which by Dubois standards they were quite deep waters. But it was clear that Tom Little, from what I saw, the gas tank was emptying pretty badly at the time.
No, yeah, and I was impressed with the way, like I said, his body shots looked excellent. And it was good to see a bit of variety. I think a lot of his previous stoppages have just been, like a straight right, bang on the chin. But it was good to see him, and he looked relaxed as well. I think it's fair to say he's looked a bit stiff sometimes, in previous fights. But this is by far his best performance. And I said, I'm on the Dubois train now. I think there's lots to like about him. He's got a great jab. I tell you, for 20, he's absolutely massive. It's weird. He's huge. And like I said, he's only going to get stronger when he develops this man strength of his. So, said an exciting heavyweight, but overall the card was absolutely cursed.
Oh, how much money did they lose last night on the card, do you reckon?
Oh, I've no idea.
Do you think they lost more or less than Dave Allen got paid?
More.
Over Smith.
It's a very good question. I like that a lot. But given Dave Allen discussions highlighted, Dave Allen might have earned 25, 30 grand at best. Frank's done some dough last night, mate. Frank's done some dough, and he's on about going back to that venue again this year. I know they spoke about De Gale and Saunders. I mean, that would sell a ticket in London. But I mean, if he can't do another show like that, I'm not kidding. There's been Eddie this year has had better next gen shows than what Frank had last night.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. The show fell apart, didn't it? Josh Lever had a medical problem. Billy Joe Saunders pulled out. Lennox Clark got injured 10 days before. It's 3 of your main fights off the card there completely. So
couldn't pull another one, could he? It would have looked terrible. He had to put it on, I think.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah, he said himself, like, look, we booked the venues as well. I don't just want to lose money. Like I said, he kept the show on. It got some of his lads out, and like they said, they're planning a bigger show in September. I believe that De Gale Saunders is being discussed. Whether it happens, I'm not too sure, but Saunders needs a big fight and he needs to get active again. Otherwise, it's going to be another 12 months out the ring.
Oh, do you know on De Gale Saunders?
Yeah.
Frank was talking about that, and he said a catchweight.
What was that, by the way?
What was that, Smitho?
I don't know. I'm eating popcorn.
You were muted, and we heard. Oh
no, that wasn't me, mate.
Is the missus here? What was she doing?
The missus is here. Yeah, she's got Love Island on. She's eating Cocoa Pops. Yeah.
All right. I've never known that about a woman, by the way. I need to get the wife eating that shit.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. You've just thrown me completely off now, lads. De Gale Saunders. Frank was talking about a potential catchweight. Does that mean that De Gale's going to come south because he's a big boy?
I'm not sure. I don't think De Gale can get below 168.
I don't.
I thought it'd be Saunders going up to 168 and challenging for the IBF title. But if it's a what's it called, a catchweight, I'm really not sure. What would it be at really? 165, something like that. 166. There's been talk about Saunders going up to super middle before. So
it reeks of desperation, I think, Ozzy. Like, we have to get that big fight. Come on, quick.
They do need. Saunders does need a big fight, though. Really, I mean, who else can he look at? Obviously, Canelo and Golovkin are tied up, so he either pulls or he brings a Charlo over, or he brings
Jacobs is awkward with Hearn. Plus, he gets paid an absolute fortune, Jacobs.
Yeah, or who else have we got? Demetrius Andrade.
Oh, he's a waste of time. I've just blanked him completely. He's useless.
It's difficult, really. So maybe a fight with De Gale. Yeah, perhaps. We're going to have to wait and see. Frank said that they're in talks and have provisionally agreed terms for a big fight. And the plan was for Murray, the winner of Murray Saunders, to fight this person. So I've absolutely no idea who it is. I'm going to try and find out.
Maybe Hater Dave knows. Dave, what have you got?
Well, I have no idea. I just wanted to say, make a comment about Saunders, that he is so like the sport of boxing, and you love him and you hate him. It's a love-hate abusive relationship. Every other fight is a cancellation or a bum or some bullshit. There's some crap around it. His kid's going to punch the opponent in the balls, one or the other, something like that. And he kind of deserves this cancellation because the Martin Murray fight was utter crap, and he pulled out hoping for a big fight. Now he hasn't gotten it. So he kind of deserves to be made to look like a mug. But then he keeps pulling me back in with his tweets and the shit he talks. He's great on the mic. He's great on Twitter. He's hilarious. I just wish that we could actually see him fight. And he also pulled me back in with that. I was ready to totally write him off after that. I don't remember that guy's name, Agamemnon or whatever, the guy he fought. And some people said he could have even lost. He was fat and out of shape. Then he comes back. Akavov.
That was in December 2016, where he said, the big fights are coming, blah, blah, blah.
With Tyson Fury's trainer in his corner?
Yeah. That was an abysmal year for him. That really was. But then he pulled me back in with the Lemieux win, and he looked stellar in that. Looked like he was at the top of the division, one of the top guys in the division at least. And now again, he's back in the shitter. Like it's always that way with Billy Joe.
Right, Dave, I'm going to get back on the shitter in a minute with some questions. Moving on, undercard of Murray, Garcia, Umar Sadiq and Darryl Williams seem like they're on a collision course. They've had a bit of beef. That should be interesting. Over in South Africa, Thalani Mabenge looks like he could be one to watch at welterweight. He won the IBO title. Love a bit of IBO myself against Diego Chavez. Was wondering what would happen to him. Now we all know. Donnie, I'm coming to you on Amir Khan's opponent next, so get yourself all prepared. Get those trousers down. Hey to Dave Lobach, let's go to you first. Questioning from Danny Young. It came in a couple of weeks ago whenever Errol Spence won against Ocampo. Dave, with Errol Spence being a relative newcomer to boxing, do you think if Crawford was to beat him, it would be a big enough win and scalp to make him one of the best? I still think we need to see a Loma on his record. What do you think? Crawford beats Spence. Would we give him a pat on the back, Dave?
Well, it depends on what he means by one of the best there, because, one of the best active now, absolutely. He's already that. One of the greatest of all time. Like, are we talking like top 20, top 50? You know, it's subjective. For what he has available right now, I think it's absolutely the best opponent he could fight, unless we're talking going up to 154. Which would probably be a bigger achievement, more so based on the size than the quality of opponent. Spence, I think, is probably better than most of the guys at 154. It's just the size difference that would make it more or less of an achievement. So yeah, I think Spence is good enough. He's not like it's such the era is it's so hard to compare to the old eras. We've had this discussion before as to like how can you even rate a guy like Crawford in this era where they fight like a couple times a year to when like they were fighting against top guys like every few weeks, you know, in the old days. It's hard to compare. And I don't think we'll ever see resumes like they amassed in the old days because the sport has changed and guys don't fight as often. People take less risks. We have 12-round fights. Fights are stopped earlier. You know, everything is very different now. We live in a different era, not just in terms of boxing, but socially. I mean, everybody does things differently now. And so you can't really rate them based. I don't think you can ever compare. And so I think maybe those greats of old might remain greats of old and kind of be untouchable there, simply because of the fact that boxing is, I don't want to say easier, but I mean it's kind of easier than it was back then. And I think for what the kind of the sport, the modern sport, yeah, he's up there with the greats already, and Spence would enhance that absolutely. I think it's the best name he could fight right now. And eventually, I do want to see him fight Josh Taylor if both of them keep winning. If Josh Taylor starts to build himself up an even bigger resume, he's already got a really excellent resume for how early on he is in his career. So yeah, let's see that happen. But I think yeah, it's true. That's why I can understand why he asked the question, because it's true that Spence isn't that well established. Honestly, he's had his one really big win is Brook, which he did in phenomenal style. And he's looked good in all of his fights. But with the quality of talent and the number of really good fighters we have in the game now, it being so small, it's hard to amass a resume of like a whole bunch of good names. So, and you've seen this trend since the 80s, I think, that guys are fighting less, but like each fight is sort of bigger.
The one thing about the pair of those guys, they both like a knockout and they've both got a decent killer instinct. I know I said that the other week about Crawford, but Spence showed it as well. I know he was against lower opposition, but they've both got evil intentions. I like it.
I think it's actually a bigger win if Spence beats Crawford, because Crawford has the more impressive resume, and I think Crawford has the higher ceiling. So if Spence were to beat Crawford, I think it's a bigger achievement, actually, as of now.
Yeah.
I'm a gorilla. I'm a dog. I'm a dog. I'm a gorilla. I talk to most shit.
Thanks, Dave. Still love that comment from you. Have to keep playing it every week.
Thanks.
Donny, Amir Khan, he's fighting the big one, Vargas. What type of a Vargas is it, Donny? Samuel Vargas, Birmingham, September the 8th. Is this the fight you've been waiting for, or are they just keeping Khan and Brook cooking along until they can put them in against each other on a pay-per-view? Amir Khan, Samuel Vargas, Donny, hit me. Can you watch that recliner?
No, I'm always stoked.
Who's he fighting?
What?
Samuel Vargas.
Really?
Not a great fight. Not what I was hoping for. I would have liked another level or two up from that. But, the problem is that he was matched so soft in the previous fight against the Greco that what he really needed was rounds. And he didn't get them because the fight lasted, all of 30 seconds. So hopefully he can get some rounds from this fight and then, now get back into a meaningful fight, the fight afterwards. It's a tick over fight. And, unless I was, living in the city wherever it's going to take place, I don't think it's going to be a huge draw. I think people were excited about the return of the first fight. They got a big knockout in 30 seconds. But, the level of opposition is going to have to step up after this, obviously. And I think we all want to know we hope where it's going is just with Brooke. That's the fight that's interesting at this point, really. It's past the sell-by date, but then again, Brooke has lost to Spence and to Golovkin, so I think it may not be what it once was, like when they were both at welterweight and everything like that. But it's still intriguing, and no one builds up a rivalry better than a matchroom, even when it's fake. But this one's actually real, so I'm sure they'll do an excellent job at selling that. The question is that are the egos involved too big to get that done? But yeah, Khan should handle Vargas. He's not a particularly powerful puncher, so I don't think he poses much threat to Khan's chin, or at least not as much as anybody else does. And I'm sure that Khan will look outstanding, in that fight, and people will clamor for more. And then hopefully by this third fight, they'll get it. The other question is, of course, too, is that, I guess he signed a 3-fight deal with Eddie Hearn. So what happens after that third fight? Is that going to be extended or not? That could obviously dictate the course of where his career goes, both in that third fight and afterwards.
Donnie, you were questioning the location there. If you got offered an all-expenses-paid trip to Birmingham, England, or Birmingham, Alabama, which one would you choose?
Oh, well, I could drive to Alabama, so if I had to. So no, I would definitely take England. Plus, I believe Kurt Ward is there, so that's definitely an attraction as well. Hang out with the Asylum boys. I would definitely pick UK.
Yep, the late Kurt Ward, R.I.P. Kurt. Hopefully we'll get him back on the pod at some point. One person we have got on the pod is rapping Rob Kelly. He's jumped on. We're going to be coming to you, Rob, shortly about Josh Taylor, Postol, and any other items of interest. Before we do, Andy, I've got a two-parter coming your way from Curtis Conway at Boof Daddy over on Twitter. First part of the question, Andy, we'll take it slowly. Lewis Ritson, off the back of Ritson's knockout win over Paul Hyland last weekend, does Lewis Ritson beat Luke Campbell and Anthony Crawler now, Andy? Luke Campbell, Anthony Crawler, does Ritson beat them now?
I think he'd beat Crawler now. Campbell, I'm not so sure. I think it'd be a tough fight, but I think, and at the same time as I need to start giving Campbell a wee bit more credit, actually, especially after the Linares performance and stuff. So I would probably need to side maybe Campbell slight favourite for that one. But I think he would handle Crawler and maybe stop him kind of like mid rounds. I just think Crawler's just, he's undersized for that weight, and Ritson's absolutely massive. So I think he would basically get to him in the end.
Yeah, Curtis Conway says he doesn't see either of them hurting Ritson one bit. His second part of the question is, if Ritson moves up, could you see a possible Ritson versus Josh Taylor fight? Jesus, what a fight, says Curtis. Could you pick a winner, Andy?
At this point, you would probably need to kind of go with Taylor just because of the opposition.
And he's at a higher weight, and he's big for the weight.
Exactly. You just wonder how Ritson would fit in there. So you need to say Taylor's definitely a favourite for that one. I'd get plumbing it for. I would maybe go for a late stoppage for Taylor.
Good stuff, Andy. We'll be coming to you on Michael Conlon shortly. Just before we get Robin, actually, Smido, I found a question that I thought I'd lost from David Farmer, right up your street. Mr. Farmer says, I think Ozzy mentioned it last week about fighters' self-entitlement mainly the Matchroom bunch. Tommy Coyle has come out and said he wants Eddie to get him a big fight over in America. Do you feel Tommy Coyle has earned a big fight in America, Smido? And what's with these Matchroom fighters and supposed self-entitlement, asks David Farmer.
There certainly is an element of self-entitlement between some of them, you know, this world level thing that we've spoke about regularly with the likes of Paul Smith, thankfully now retired. Tommy Coyle, I don't know. He's danced pretty much every dance you would say that's been asked of him. Matthews and Luke Campbell and stuff like that. I saw him turning down someone or telling someone to wait. Does anyone know who he was going back and forth with the other day on Twitter, telling someone to wait because he wanted to fight in America, as you've alluded to, Steve? The sense of entitlement in that, saying it's a lot different from when Crawford said it, and it pains me to say that. Tommy Coyle saying he wants to fight in America simply because he can, because Eddie has got the contract, dates, whatever, TV channel over there to do so. So I don't think it's Tommy Coyle being that much of a diva, to be honest. I thought he was shot, but he blasted out Masha Dodd last time, didn't he? So I thought he was done, but the guys at Jamie Moore's gym seem to be putting it in, and the results are there to see, to be honest with you.
So you seem to think, Smido, the Matchroom thing is all about the contacts, the fact Eddie's going over to America, he needs fighters, he's over there, why not? It's like, you know someone who knows someone who's got a holiday home in Malaga, pull a few strings?
Yeah, I think in this particular instance, yes, that's where Tommy Coyle's coming from. I think 2 years ago, would Tommy Coyle have been saying, I want my name in lights in America? No, he wouldn't be saying that, but he's only saying it now because he can and he knows it can happen. Generally, there's definitely issues within Matchroom. Thinking that they're a lot better than what they are. They need to prove it. Dillian White's one of those. We've had plenty of them down the years. We think that we can just fight like Amir Khan and Kell Brook can continue to fight idiots until they go on pay-per-view against each other. I mean, it's dead easy. It's steady. Like, Steve, you're working 40 hours a week now. I want you to work 20 hours a week, and at the end of the year, I'm going to give you a massive bonus. That's what they're saying. Just fight idiots for 6 or 7 months, and then we'll chuck you in with each other in a fight that no one really wants to see except for Donny. And that's basically it.
Smido, that deal sounds pretty much how Tommy persuaded me to take over when Andy quit the host.
Andy didn't quit. Andy's just on the world's longest sabbatical.
Yeah. Andy's the pod stalwart. He's here every week. Tommy made me some promises that weren't kept, but I'm not going to go into that now. Only joking. Right, Rob Kelly, very warm welcome to you. Good to have you on the pod. What we're going to do with you, Rob? I'm not going to insult your intelligence by talking to you about Murray against Garcia, but I've had a question in from Mark Wood, and it's about Shane McGuigan. So we know where Mark's feelings are on Shane's performance in the corner for the Josh Taylor Postol fight last night. Is Shane McGuigan a charlatan? Straight at you from Mark Wood.
I think he's had some good fighters. So, I don't know if he's a charlatan. He obviously knows his boxing. He comes from a boxing family that gets right into him. I just think he's got a great fighter in Taylor. Sorry, that's it.
You sound like you're being suffocated, Rob.
No, but I don't know if he's a charlatan, man. I think that's a bit too harsh. Dead right, Taylor.
Well, tell me about his performance in the corner last night, but more so the performance of his fighter, Josh Taylor. Got the job done against an awkward, experienced opponent who proved that he had more in the tank than we maybe suspected last week.
Yeah, no, I thought Postol was going to have a tough fight. I didn't think it was going to be a straightforward fight. He only got schooled by Crawford. It's no shame losing to him. So I think it shows what level Taylor's at now. Kind of level that the lads on the pod, especially Andy and all them, thought early days he was at. He's up there in the mix now at 140 after that. And Postol can probably hang around and give anybody a fight at 140 and make him look difficult, or make it difficult for him rather. I think the knockdown was probably the decisive factor in Taylor winning the fight. And obviously, I'm sure you covered the scorecards, an absolute joke. it's just an embarrassment for a guy like Postol to come over and put in a good performance, like to get done like that on the cards. All right, you know what I mean? I thought Taylor was a clear winner in a close fight. Don't mind that. Not mad at that at all. Want to see that actually. You know, you want to see tough competitive fights with the guy with the clear winner coming away with the decision, but not like that. Like, you know what I mean? And one didn't give him one round or something. Like,
yeah,
that's outrageous. Like, and it shouldn't be accepted. Like, should not be accepted. Shouldn't be brushed over. All right, it didn't affect the outcome. The guy, I thought the guy was justified in his win. Like, so we got the winner we deserved, but shocking cards, like, absolutely shocking. So I saw that. So I'd like to see Taylor in with anyone now at 140. In with baby bro AB. You know what I mean? So should that sort that shit up?
Rob, we're hearing you a bit muffled. Do you want to give your mic a shake or something?
Hold on there, 1 sec. Can you hear me now?
It's a bit distant. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's weird.
Hold on, maybe I'll log out and come back in. Hold
on. Okay, no problem. Sure, we'll be waiting for you. Right, while Rob logs himself out and back in, Ozzy, let's go to you with a question from Brutus the Great. I think we know what your answer is going to be, but let's hit you anyway. Question for the pod. Does the fact that Eddie can pack out the O2 for sparring, but Frank can't get it half full for his best card, less the main event show, that he is past it? Surely BT are not going to put up with his fragmented shit any longer. Now, one thing I will agree with Brutus, Ozzy, is the last part. Whether you're an Eddie fan, a Frank fan, or you're indifferent like us or whatever, BT can't be looking at some of these shows with, you know, the audience. I mean, there weren't enough people in the arena last night to cause a fight, I suppose. That's one good thing.
No, that's true. Last night's attendance was very poor, and even when the show was at its peak, you know, with Saunders, Murray, Davis, Leather, etc., things like that, I think it only sold about 6,000 or 7,000 then. But aside from that, I do think his ticket sales have improved. They did 15,000 for Fury's comeback. Frampton sells out. Warrington did 20-odd thousand as well. They're decent numbers, them, and I don't think anyone can quibble at those. Will BT be happy at those shows? I can't see it. But, I mean, last night's was abysmal. But I've seen some Sky shows which are no better as well. Yeah, that's it really. I do think I've got to admit I do think his ticket sales have gone up. There is naturally more people there, and this BT thing isn't, you know, like I don't think you can expect a quick turnaround of right. They got the deal. They're going to go from selling 1,000 tickets to 5,000 tickets within, you know, like 5 shows. It's going to take time. And it's going to take time to, you know, to build his fighters. But putting people like Anthony Harding here, you know, like his bigger names, and with no marks constantly, people aren't going to buy tickets to see them at all. It's not going to happen. So I think whilst his sales are going up, he still needs to do more. I think that's both in the ring and outside the ring in terms of marketing, promoting, and that's what Hearn does very well. He could sell sand to the Arabs. He holds a straight face when he knows he's telling barefaced lies. Like a prime example is he keeps talking about this Wilder fight. Joshua's been in camp for a while now. Don't know why they don't just admit it's going to be Alexander Povetkin. Otherwise, why would Joshua have gone in camp like 4 weeks ago? There's no logic behind it whatsoever. But like I said, people take like what he says as God's truth, when in reality we all know it's not. But at the same time, sometimes Frank needs to concentrate on doing his own thing and, you know, like improving things on his side, rather than moaning about it on videos all the time.
Just looking ahead at next week's fights, a couple of shows that we're not going to discuss, but Joe Smith Jr. returns at light heavyweight against Melvin Russell. Star Boxing, Joey DeGuardia are promoting that one. Shout out to matchmaker Ron Katz, who's been on this show in the past. Quite an interesting guest was Ron. God knows what episode that was, but it was quite a while ago. He's matchmaking on that show. Also, there was another show of interest that I had up here. Rashidi Ellis, 19-0, like the look of him. That's an Oscar De La Hoya card out in Mexico against Alberto Mosquera. Decent step up for Ellis. Rob, sound check. How you sounding?
1 2 1 2 testing. How are we now?
Well, it hasn't got any better. It might have actually got a little bit worse.
Right. Okay. Hold on. Let me just move around. I don't know what the fuck is up. If you can't hear me now, I'll try again, and if I can't, it doesn't work, then we might say good night for this week.
We don't
Tell
usually
him
be
to
hearing
try
you like
from
this.
his phone.
Say again?
Try from his phone if his computer won't work.
Yeah, my phone is way worse, man. Oh, God. Hold on. Yeah, no,
You're getting better. You're getting better.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Go on. I can hear you now. Go on. Finish off about Taylor. Future projections. Prograis, Ramirez. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I want to see him win with AB. Like, I want to see that fight. Like, see Taylor in America versus AB at 140. Amazing. No, he's a good kid. Like, and I like he's got a bit of a kind of a tough streak to him as well. He was going, not saying he was purposely leading with the head last night, but he was coming out on the better of it sometimes, and got a good shot selection. Like, and he was in there with a top guy last night. Postol is a top competitor, awkward guy, awkward style, and he dealt with him, got the job done. So yeah, onwards and upwards for Josh Taylor. He's as good as we thought he was. Then on the flip side of that, saw Harry Davis last night, with a fantastic knockout. Like, absolutely vaporized the guy. Like, I don't know if we hit him around the side of the head or something with that shot. Like, wasn't bang on the chin, but absolutely vaporized him. Yeah, but belly with a week for his hair, like, because he looked like Cisco. Know what was going on with his hair, but saw the Dave Allen fight then with Yoko Ono. Fucking hell, like, Yoko just jabbed the head off him, like, for the whole fight, like, upstairs, downstairs, like, dropping shots on him, and Allen looked a mess, like, out of shape, terribly out of shape. No setup to his shots. Like, dug in then in the second half of the fight. Like, one thing about him we've learned, he's durable. He's been durable against Dillian White, durable against Luis Ortiz, durable against Yoko last night. Eventually got stopped mercifully in the last round when he just looked like a mess, man. I don't know why he took that fight. Like, it's short money. What did he get? Like 30-something grand. Like, you know, obviously he just did a money grab, took that fight for the money and thinking this is a no lose. I'm going in with an Olympic gold medalist. Oh, here's my story again. You know what I mean? But he knows he'll get another payday because he said a few tickets out of Doncaster. Eddie will put him on another card, so he knows he's going to get a payday regardless. So maybe that's where his mindset is. Like, as I said, you know what I mean? Because I don't know why you take that fight like on short notice. Like, that's just got clipped like around the ring. But then what did I see? What else was
on? Frank's card, yeah, you mentioned that. There wasn't really a hell of a lot, Rob, to be honest.
I saw Dubois and Tom Little.
Yeah.
Thought Dubois looked good, like.
Picked his shots well, didn't they?
Yeah, really, really well, like. And I thought Little hung in there like as much as he could, but no, he's good, like. He's only a young kid as well, like. He's progressing nicely, like. I'd like to see him. I know they're not going to make it, but I'd like to see him and Joyce, like.
Right, moving on. Hey to Dave, I'm going to come to you shortly on the Oklahoma top rank card featuring Gilberto Ramirez and Alex Saucedo. Mike Alvarado is on it as well. Before we do so, Kevin Chase sent in a question a few weeks ago. Quite an interesting take on the best British fighter not to win a world title. Kevin says, after the sad death of Dean Francis and how Joe Calzaghe once said that Dean was the best British fighter not to win a world title, which fighter do we think is the most overrated British fighter to have that title bestowed upon them? As in, the best British fighter not to win a world title. We know what you mean, Kevin. There's been Harold Graham, Kirkland Lang, Dean Francis, and Howard Eastman to some extent as well, back to those in the 1970s. My personal choice would be Kirkland Lang, says Kevin. Good fighter, however, not sure if the real Hands of Stone turned up on that famous night. So I don't know if anybody wants to briefly throw any in, but Kevin is saying, of all the fighters that have the title bestowed upon them of the best British fighter never to win a world title, which ones are the most overrated? I think the ones he mentioned, you know, the likes of Howard Eastman, Harold Graham, bit harsh, I'd say he probably is genuine. Kirkland Lang, can agree with that. Dean Francis as well. Was Francis ever good enough to win a world title? Rest in peace, Dean. I'm not sure that he was, to be honest. So, right, we'll move on from that. I think anybody.
Sorry, man. I think in terms of Kirkland Lang, like he might have got Duran obviously on an off night, like, but it could have been a Kirkland Lang off night as well. Like, there's famous stories of Mickey Duff going to pull him out of apartments, like where he was smoking a J, like before on the day of a fight. You know what I mean? So the guy didn't fulfill his full potential, but he had tremendous ability. Like, absolutely brilliant to watch on his night. Like, so it could go. That argument could kind of go both ways with reference to Kirkland Lang.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody has any suggestions, it's an interesting question, Andy. It's an interesting question from Kevin there, because you do hear sometimes fighters being said, "Oh, he was the best British fighter never to win a world title," but realistically, certain names maybe just weren't good enough. What do you think, Andy?
Alan Rudkin, the guy for Liverpool. I think he was British and Commonwealth champ. I think he might have been European champ as well. I think he'd challenged maybe once or twice for the bantamweight title. I think he fought the Japanese guy fighting Harade. At that point, the guy was at his peak in that, so
fought Ruben Olivares as well.
Yep, as well.
So he's a genuine shout out then for fighter that didn't
Rose, Lionel Rose as well. So yep. So I would probably say Alan Rudkin. I remember reading about him or hearing something about him recently. I need to go and check him out.
Stick around, Andy, because we have a question as well from Ben Thorns coming up shortly about Marvin Hagler and middleweights. Hey to Dave, any interest in this top rank card that I mentioned to you? Plenty of time to do your research. Gilberto Ramirez is 37-0. He's going in against 23-0 Roma Alexis Angulo. We don't know how good he's going to be. Bob isn't slow. I mean, if you're going to be brutally honest, the Mexican fighters, they pack stadiums out, they make money. Bob has always done this throughout his career. He knows how to sell. Ramirez isn't the best, but he's a ticket seller, and he has that fan base, that historic Hispanic fan base behind him. That's why Bob is using these type of guys. What do you think, hey, today? Gilberto Ramirez, Alex Saucedo in Oklahoma next week. Are you going to be tuning in?
Does nothing for me. I guess it'll do something for Bob's pockets. I don't have anything against Ramirez, but we just really haven't seen him against any other. What's his most notable win is got to be Abraham, right? Yeah. It's probably not his best win. His best win might be that other guy he had a close fight with. I can't remember his name.
Also Jesse Hart was a good
Jesse Hart. That's it. Yeah, he dropped him in the first and had him hurt pretty bad, but it was ultimately a pretty close fight. That's probably his best win because that's Hart was actually in good shape when he fought him, as opposed to Abraham, who was well washed. So Ramirez could be good. We don't really know. The division's not bad. I mean, let's see him fight some of the better names in it. As I say, it's not bad. I do think it's still not that hard for a guy like Ramirez to get another belt or two. I think he could probably take one off DeGale. DeGale has his belt back, right? Yeah, he did. It was over a belt, the rematch with Truax, right? Yeah,
so it was
a paper belt, but nonetheless, I think I'd pick Ramirez to take that belt back. It's just not interesting. I mean, I'm not going to write off Ramirez, but next week's fight doesn't really interest me. Who knows? It might turn out to be awesome. And if I hear good things about it, I will look it up.
And you can come and tell us about it, Dave?
Of course.
Excellent. Donnie, any interest in Michael Conlan fighting in Belfast next weekend? I'll be there in attendance. What do you think's Conlan's ceiling, Donnie? A lot of people are talking multiple weights. You're an objective, he says, observer. What do you think about Conlan?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he really probably should have a gold medal or at least a silver. We know that. But, he did turn over rather late. I think he 25 or 26. But, the talent's there just at the lighter weight classes. I think, he's going to age a little bit faster than some of these Mexican guys who turn over when they're 18 or 19. So, I think he'll have to, keep the professional pace as continual step-ups and gradual cumulative stepping up. I think that he needs to go ahead and do that. Obviously, Aram will keep him active, and he makes money, right? He brings fans to wherever he goes when he fights in New York, even whether he fights, back home, wherever he goes, he definitely can pack in a crowd. So there's no reason not to keep him active because he'll generate money. So multiple weights, sure, why not? I think that's definitely a possibility. But I just want to see him out as often as possible. And I would say we need a significant step up sometime soon. I'd like to see him maybe in his next 3 or 4 fights start cracking the top 10 of the division.
Ozzy, feel free to give me a word on Conlon, but I know that you're the type of guy who'll be looking at this undercard with interest, as will I. Joe Ham, Tyrone McCullough, good fight. Paddy Gallagher is out against Corcoran with a broken jaw. That will be a genuine injury. Gallagher doesn't duck anybody. Jack Cattrall, Tyrone McKenna, proper fight. And the rematch between John O'Carroll, Declan Geraghty, it's a good card, Ozzy, it really is.
Excellent, absolutely superb. Every one of them's competitive. Real shame that Gallagher's broke his jaw against Corcoran. I don't know if they'll bring anybody in spectacular as a replacement. I think it's sold relatively well for what they expected, so they'll probably just get him some nobody. But no, compared to his past couple of undercards, this is superb. McKenna Catterall. Who was McKenna in with originally? Oh, it was Phil Sutcliffe Jr., wasn't it? And he's, I don't know if he's got hand injuries again, but you don't get a much better replacement than Jack Catterall. Real good fight. I expect Jack to do the business there. I've not seen much of Joe Ham. I think he's Scottish. I think I might have seen him on a couple of cards. Ricky Burns undercards.
McCullough really fancies this. He's been calling. I've interviewed him a few times after shows, and he's been calling for this fight. He really fancies Ham.
Well, it's the Celtic. Is it like an English belt, or is it like an area belt? I don't know like how it works.
It's like an area belt. I think it's run by the board. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's really well matched. Look at 14-0, 10-0. McCullough's clearly up for it. Ham's clearly up for it. So great. Really good to see that two lads have gone together. Another one that's a good in is Lewis Benson against Johnny Coyle. This is over an 8-rounder. Johnny Coyle, he's a super lightweight. Originally, I don't know if he's going up to welterweight for it, but another good matchup as well. And I think Conlon's opponent's pretty decent for him as well. After 7 fights, I think Dos Santos, he's been in with like Kid Galahad and a couple of others, Magdaleno as well. And John O'Carroll, Declan Geraghty. I think the first fight was over was it a 4-rounder or something on a Matthew Macklin undercard in Dublin?
Yeah, it went on after the main event and it was a disqualification.
Yeah, Geraghty got disqualified. I think was it for persistent headbutting or something like that?
I think it was, but it was like one of those fights where all the crowd, a lot had gone home and all the local fans had all gathered around the ring. It was a real fervent atmosphere and it was fought with a lot of intensity. But Declan's Geraghty's skilled. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't win this rematch.
Well, I was going to say, do you know what? I wouldn't write Geraghty off as well. I watched his last fight in Preston against Johnny Quigley, and he took the piss at times. He looked levels above.
He's really talented.
But he does have a tendency to throw that head in. And he had points taken off then, and he was lucky not to be chucked out. And it's not the first time it's happened in a Geraghty fight, and I don't think it will be the last. Carroll, he's on a bit of a run, seems to develop a bit of a dig as well. So this is a great fight, and I think that could be fight of the night. But overall, really impressive undercard. Decent show. Not much more you can ask for, really. A couple of kids on it as well. Gary Cully, seen him before a couple of times. He looks decent. Lewis Crocker, he looks good. Sonny Edwards, Charlie Edwards' brother. Taylor McGoldrick, not seen him before. And Padraig McCrory as well. Is he a relation to the... Bugger, there's another McCrory as well. Stephen Island. Is he any relation to him as well?
No. Fergal's from Coal Island. Podrick is from Belfast. I actually used to work with his brother-in-law. And Taylor McGoldrick, I saw him made his debut. He's not going to go very far, I don't think.
Oh, right. Okay, then. But no, overall, it's a real good card. And this is what you want to be seeing. And this is one where BT will be happy with. Because, like I said, it's got evenly matched fights. It's got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 evenly matched fights. It's exactly what you want to see.
Yep, hopefully we'll be there for a good night. I'll be there right from the beginning. Rob, any thoughts on the Belfast card from you?
Yeah, man. I'm really pleased the way they're moving Michael Conlon along, like getting to learn the pro ranks and progress. Because everybody's not Lomachenko, like just because they fought in the Olympics. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of pressure on the fighters that come out of the Olympics, not to kind of skip over learning the ropes, like, you know what I mean? So good that he's another learning fight for him. Brilliant to get a headline show. That Geraghty Carroll card, man, that's unreal. Like, it's so funny from an Irish perspective, the difference in their careers, because before the first fight, like, everybody was high on Geraghty. Like, he's such a good amateur, like, performed at world level in the amateurs. he was on TV over here and everything. Like he was on Take Me Out and everything. Like so, everyone was like high hopes for Declan Gardy, and then he kind of looks like. I don't want to say he chucks it in fights, but he does things that's going to put him out of favor with the referee, and it looks like an easy way out. Like I thought Cara was handling him pretty well in a close fight in the first fight. And I think Cara might, his career has gone on leaps and bounds ever since then. Like, so
surprisingly, I think, because Geraghty was definitely the favourite in the first fight. Carroll had come back from Australia. I know he was a local guy, but he wasn't expected to do big things, and I think he's overachieved so far. He's talented.
Definitely, and he didn't really do anything in the amateurs either. Like he just kind of turned pro after not the same kind of amateur career as Geraghty. Like, so it's been a really interesting story, and the two of them are getting it on again. And I wouldn't be surprised if Carroll beats him again, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind to see Geraghty beat him so we could see it a third time. Like, because I think the two of them are just completely different personalities, genuinely don't like each other. And if this fight, maybe it deserves. If this fight isn't any good. Maybe we deserve to see it 3 times on an even bigger platform, because there's genuine animosity between the two of these guys, like, and two completely different styles. So yeah, great card.
Yep, I'm going to leave Ben Thorns' question, I think, till next week, because there's not a hell of a lot going on. Andy, we'll come to you on Conlon. If you're listening in the chat, hit the thumbs up, everybody. Go on, Crom, hit the thumbs up. You know you love us. You're going to hit the thumbs down, aren't you? And also, don't forget to subscribe to whatever platform you're listening to this on, whether it's iTunes, whether it's YouTube, or whatever it is. Just let them know that you want to be around when we produce these shows. Andy, Michael Conlon, or anything off the undercard from you?
No, mate. Well, obviously, McKenna, Carroll, Geraghty. I'm interested in watching. Johan McCulloch might be decent. I agree with you. I think McCulloch might just have a wee bit too much for him. Dos Santos, I've clearly seen him before. I think he fought in the Mariaga against Valdez undercard, but I can't remember him. But I would think. I mean, it is classed as a step up for Conlon. The guy, I think he's got a kind of quite a high KO percentage, so you just know he can probably bang whatever level that's been at is up for debate, but he's clearly carrying power at a certain level, so it's maybe something to be wary about. But probably, I think this guy's kind of lost at kind of like top level, so I think it's clearly maybe a kind of step up class for Conlon, so maybe a wary step as well. But interesting, it's only an 8-rounder as well, so I thought it might be up to 10 rounds by now.
Yep, interesting observation, Andy. Hey to Dave, before we go on to Bellew of the Weeks and finish up for the evening, we've managed to keep ourselves going. A few sleepyheads on the pod tonight. We've still got Andy, we've still got Ozzy, Rob Kelly, Donny's with us as well. Dave, any interest in Conlon? Comparatively speaking, him and Shakur Stevenson, who would you have the higher hopes for?
Well, the nationalistic side of me would probably just favor Shakur based on that, but we have had Mr. Conlon on our podcast, so that kind of cancels that out. I don't really have a horse in the race as far as who I'm rooting for, although from what I've seen of both guys' careers so far, I think Shakur has come further. He's done quite well in his last couple of fights. I mean, I know he's not like fighting any deadly opposition or anything yet, but I think he's improved. Conlon, I haven't seen his most recent, I think, 2 fights. The last fight I did see of him, though, looked like the power just was not going to be there, and I thought it was a concern from what I saw. I think it was in that Australia. Didn't he fight on the Pacquiao Horn undercard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not too impressed with that performance. The guy had like a little bit of craft about him, but I thought he made Conlon ultimately just kind of have to beat him on youth and work rate as opposed to like real boxing skill. Stevenson's been looking for the knockout and setting it up well in his last couple of fights. So Stevenson would be my pick if they were to meet.
Imagine if you rolled Michael and Jamie into one, Dave. You'd have some fighter, wouldn't you?
Can Jamie punch? I still haven't actually seen Jamie fight. I just know he's like the blood and guts warrior.
Yeah, good puncher to the body.
Yeah. Too bad they can't combine like Voltron.
Dave loves a good science fiction reference. No idea what he's talking about. Anyway, we shall move on. Thank you for listening. McKetch has been in touch on Twitter. Well, I've been reading his tweets anyway. I think John O'Carroll will beat Geraghty again. He says Carroll punching harder than ever in his recent fights, and Geraghty is susceptible to pressure. Right, Andy, you got something to add? Sorry,
mate. No.
Oh, right. Let's move on with the Bellew of the Weeks, and then we'll finish up for the evening. Okay, starting off with Michael Pengelly has nominated all the comments in an Eddie Hearn thread. Too many to narrow down, so I nominate the entire comment section, he said. Stefan Brew was in touch with Eddie. He said, you sent that contract to Bronze Bomber yet? Yep, says Eddie. We haven't heard any more of that since, though. Donny has sent this one in from Colin Cooper. Colin Cooper has nominated the Pound for Pound podcast. Brilliant start this week for Value of the Week material. Joe Joyce, apparently the Pound for Pound podcast, said they were querying why he was wearing a Mexican hat on the Bellew versus Hay card, but not on Friday. And Gavin McDonnell versus Stewie Hall, last chance saloon for both fighters. So the Pound for Pound boxing podcast, which I believe is the Jake Wood one, has been nominated by Colin. Eris Landy Lara is one of many people, actually, who was nominated. Donny, maybe you know a bit more than this box rec thing that's happening now. You can rate fighters against each other. We've had all sorts of anomalies being thrown up. Derek Chisora against Joe Lewis, Muhammad Ali against Anthony Joshua. What's this all about, Donny, this box rec prediction machine?
I mean, I don't know exactly what it is. Somebody explained to me the calculation mechanism and why it produces these absurd results, although I can't re-explain it to you, although when I read it made sense at the time. But essentially, any current fighter would be shown to beat any fighter of the past. So we're sending in like Derek Chisora versus Muhammad Ali, and like there's a 94% of Derek Chisora winning. And and all of this stuff. So
I think it's supposed to be for modern day fights to be compared, but people have found this amusing loophole.
See, that's the problem, though. Why is it called "What If"? If it's that, like, look, I'm going to give another couple examples here. Louis Ritson, 94. Roberto Duran, 6. David Allen, 40-60 for Safar Safari. Bakoli is 75-25 for Muhammad Ali.
Dave, if you got put in against Donny for the rights to be the top American contributor to this podcast, what if? Who would come out on top?
It'd probably be about 90-10 in my favor.
War Gabe, we'll bring Gabe back. Maybe Matty one day as well. Maybe we'll bring back Matty. Right, nomination. We move on to Shop Copy. He's one of these people that Aussie loves to hate. Shop Copy was slagging off Frank. Good idea, sell a few tickets for the Fury fight, then announce a cruiserweight who is useless for Fury to beat. Can't even top the bill, this so-called champion. And just days earlier, Shop Copy had been tweeting Eddie Hearn. Thanks, Eddie, for the retweet. Can't wait till Saturday night. Got my wife coming along for her first ever boxing show. The world's #1 boxing promoter at Matchroom Boxing. Potential bot. He's a real person, Donny. What are we going to do with these people?
I don't know. I mean, well, real person, I mean, that's a stretch. You know, they may not be a bot. That doesn't mean they're a real person.
Harsh from Donny. Harsh. Kill yourself, says Donny officially. Right, Michael Gearty is one of many people who's been nominating Sky Sports Boxing. Surely a troll from Sky Sports. Talking about Conor Benn emulating Arturo Gatti, a no-nonsense change of appearance and righting the wrongs against Cedric Payneau. The Conor Benn, Nigel Benn story goes on. Exclusive interview here. Conor Benn, Arturo Gatti. I don't know if we're going to be able to top that one, everybody, but Paul Smith has retired, as we mentioned on last week's pod. Sean Mitchell has nominated Sky Sports Boxing again. Who is writing this shit? A fine career. Paul Smith Jr. can be proud of his career, and although it was the right decision, he should have had his moment in Germany as world champion, says Sky's Johnny Nelson. Okay.
I actually heard, that was Andy's alternative answer for who was the best British fighter never to win a world title.
Mikesh has been back in touch about the box rec thing, actually. The reason for the loophole is that most of the past champions are old or dead. So obviously Derek Chisora would beat the dead Muhammad Ali, don't he? Says Mikesh.
Well, actually, and then if that's the case, that makes a lot of sense because they only gave him a 94% chance.
Yeah, so even a dead Muhammad Ali has a 6% chance of beating Derek Chisora. That sounds fair, actually. Right, James Bairstow and Danny Robson have been talking about Johnny Nelson. Most fighters, says Johnny, when they retire, look in better condition than they do in between fights, and Paul Smith will be like that. All of a sudden, Paul might say in a few years, why don't you fight again? It's been terrible this week on Twitter, everybody. Callum Neal has nominated Matt for calling Kovalev a tomato can. Mikey Hughes says Bellew the fucking year. He's talking about this Sky Sports Conor Benn story again. Colin Roberts has been nominating the 3 judges in the Taylor Postol fight for Value of the Week with their dogshit scorecards, absolute incompetence. Michael Stannis has nominated Martin Murray, talking after the fight last night. If I fought Billy Joe tonight, it would have been the same. I would have taken him to school, says Martin Murray. Stormtrooper Bet has nominated Seth, talking about tin cans and Dave Caldwell. McMighty got owned by Barry McGuigan for talking about adrenaline in the eye. Some adrenaline got in his eye, Barry. Was this adrenaline thrown from the crowd? Did it fall from the ceiling? You don't have to talk pish. And then Barry called him a moron. It went into the eye, which caused the eye to dilate. Josh Taylor showed courage. Barry having a go at McMighty, who got owned pretty much. Who's this one? Let's have a look. Mikey of Michael has nominated Oscar De La Hoya. He is a steaming pile of turds, says Michael. And there was another one. Another guy had been tweeting Carl Frampton, getting him mixed up with Carl Froch, talking about the 80,000 in front of Wembley. But someone did send that to me, but I didn't screenshot it. Apologies to whoever that was. Okay, so anybody got any nominations? That's all the ones I've got. I think Conor Benn, emulating Arturo Gatti Robb, is a strong front runner. What have you got for us?
Yeah, Clarissa Shields in her post fight. She had a fight over the weekend, didn't she? And in her post fight, they must have had like her lined up opponent next, like, and they were like, "Oh, you want to fight this one?" So she lost her shit in the interview and started going, "I'm gonna beat your ass. I'm gonna beat your ass. I'm gonna beat your ass," like 100 times. And then they had to be separated, and she threw a punch at this one, and then she said to the guy in her corner, "You could get it too, big boy. You could get it too." So very good week for Clarissa Shields. It's the most interesting I've ever seen her, actually, and she got dropped and got up as well in the fight. Not that anybody gives a shit, but yeah, but beat your ass, big boy.
Didn't Anthony Yard come out with a catchphrase as well? It's not lions only, wasn't it? Lions in the gym or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that one taking off, man.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one, isn't it? Any lions in the gym, skeletons in the cupboard, Aussie, gremlins in the system? Any nominations from you?
No, none from me. No.
Andy, any nominations?
Not really, mate. I mean, I just found one for like a couple of weeks back. It was for the Jeff Horn, Terence Crawford fight. I don't know if it was put up before, but it was basically his team hoping to get a rematch with Crawford in Australia. Basically saying, you know, they'd dearly love to get a fight in Australia because they would think it would be a absolute different fight. They'd be able to turn the tables and stuff. So that clearly tells me that Terence Crawford needs another stoppage, like, or he's getting hosed with Pacquiao.
Didn't they say he wore the wrong shoes or some shit?
I can't mind.
They said that he bought the wrong shoes over with him, apparently, and then he got blisters on his feet. Or so. You'd think if you're going for the biggest fight of your life over in Las Vegas, like packing the right pair of trainers or a pair of trainers that fit you would be like a basic requisite. That is a bullshit excuse, Dave.
That's the same excuse they tried to use, and I think Big Digga back on the forum tried to use for Shane Mosley against Pacquiao. He wore the wrong shoes.
It's obviously a true story, because where are you going to buy a pair of trainers in America?
Get yourself a Foot Locker.
Actually, Steve, I have got one.
Oh,
they're at Dan10950562, and he was ousted by the Frank Warren Twitter account for being a bot. And if you go on the guy's account and just look at his tweets replies, they're absolutely horrendous, absolutely awful. So Frank replied with following one, followed by none. Tweets are only replies to people and generally follow a certain narrative. Ladies and gentlemen, here is, and then put his Twitter account there. Have a little look around on Twitter, and you'll see there are a number of accounts like this. So Frank's team are biting back against the Matchroom bots.
Frank doesn't tweet from that account ever, does he? I don't think he's ever sent a tweet from that account.
You know that when he said, "Send a pic, baby."
Go ahead, Dave. You say your bit first.
Didn't Frank Warren tweet from that account when he was caught? Like he thought he was in direct message with a girl.
Oh, that's right. He was sliding into the DMs, Aussie, wasn't he?
He's like, "Send a pic, baby," and then deleted it.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's do our picks then. I'm going for the Sky Sports boxing. Oh, sorry, Donnie. Go ahead.
No. Okay. Well, I have two. This one was sent to us last week. It says in my thing, it says 6/16. So that would be this week, right?
6/16, the 16th of June.
Yeah. Oh,
No.
sorry. Yeah, it's first over there. Yeah, I'm sorry. 16-6. So that would be this week. So there was a tweet that we got from, and maybe someone can explain this because I don't quite get it. We got it from let's see, the Arislandi Laura user, but it's obviously not Laura. But it says, "Wow." No, that's not it. Hang on. Oh yeah, it says, "Belly of the week: McCrory off his head on booze and ket." I assume that means ketamine, and mistakes Josh Kelly for Josh Taylor. But even still, he gets denied access by Hearn. Laugh my ass off. What is that all about?
I've no idea, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, who was the reporter?
Oh, and then there's a link to. Oh, and then that tweet's been deleted by McCrory. So I don't know. Maybe McCrory.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, he was raging at the beginning of the week because Matchroom denied him, and he was he went on like a couple tweet rant in a row. He seemed drunk.
Oh, okay. So what? So Matchroom denied him access to cover the show?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know who Glenn McCrory is. You guys know him? Is he a good pundit? He's about as good as Jeff Powell.
Oh,
Glenn McCrory, he's a former world champion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Disrespectful shit.
And then the other one that I liked was let's see right here, just pulling it up. Oh, shoot. Where the hell is it?
This is good stuff. This is done. Donny Baseball on the line, everybody.
Wait. Give me a second.
Donny, I want to get to my bed, man, for fuck's sake.
It's all right for him. It's about 3 o'clock in the frigging afternoon.
It's fucking 10 o'clock at night here. You can't. Hurry up.
I'll
Steve, I'm voting for Sky Sports for that.
Yeah, I know. Right, let's hurry up and get the fuck out of here. Right, Donny, if it's any good, stick it on Twitter.
The other nomination I had was also Oscar De La Hoya was basically...
Thanks for your time, Donny. Cheers for that.
What? All right. Oscar De La Hoya was basically pandering to the Mexican fans using the picture of Golovkin shaking Donald Trump's hand because of the immigration controversy this week, and he's like, look at Golovkin, he's such an asshole. Basically trying to turn it into like an evil villain, that Canelo is going to take down. So I guess if you use PEDs, you can always turn to global politics to try to win back your fans. Fervor.
Thanks, Donny. Right, I'm going for, I've said it many times, Sky Sports Boxing. Andy, who are you going for?
Sky Sports Boxing.
Donny, who are you going for?
Make it quick, Donny.
Well, I have to really think about it. There's a lot of good nominations this week, but I think I'll go with Sky Sports.
Dave?
Sounds like they're the winner, so fuck it.
Ozzy, it's got to be Sky, hasn't it, for this Gatti Ben shit?
Yeah, full house.
Robert, unanimous?
Oh, absolutely.
Unanimous decision. Right, let's get the hell out of here. Congratulations, Sky Sports Boxing. It's not the first time you've won. It won't be the last. Thank you to everybody in the chat as well. We always love hearing from you lot. Rapping Rob Kelly was on with us. Ozzy Smith, Andy Patterson, Donny Baseball, Dave the Hater Lowback. Dominic was on as well. Smido, no guru, but we did have Ryan Doyle. Thank you, Ryan, for coming on. Good luck in the future. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all those lovely things. We'll catch you all again, same time, same place next week. I've been Steve Wellings. Bye.
Let's make TV.